We're going to open it up. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Southwick Conservation Commission, Monday, August 7th, 2023 meeting. It is 7 o'clock and the meeting is taking place here in Southwick Town Hall in the land use room, as well as via Zoom for a hybrid meeting. So I want to thank you all for coming. Before we get started with the meeting, I just want to go around the room, or the table up here, and have the commissioners introduce themselves.
Norm Cheever,
Dave McWilliams.
Jerry Patria, Kevin Stork.
And we also have Sabrina Fuller, the
Coordinator.
Conservation Coordinator, and Jean Nielsen, the Conservation Secretary. So we do have a quorum and we are prepared to move on. So first order of business, why don't we take a look at the minutes for the July 17th meeting? Hey, Mehmet, just for the record, Mehmet Manzanagul has joined the meeting as well in person. He's here. So do we have any notes on the meeting or the minutes?
Before I make a motion to approve as written.
Norm made a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Kevin?
Aye.
Jerry Patria seconded. Mehmet?
Aye.
Dave McWilliams, aye. All right, so we'll move on.
You have to motion on the tabled minutes from June 25th.
Well,
Oh, all right. Are they? In the, June 26th?
June 26th, I made the corrections that Norm noted from the last meeting.
okay,
All right. I'll accept a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting of June 26th.
so move.
Norm made the motion. Do I have a second? Jerry seconded. Kevin?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Okay, good. Minutes are out of the way. Let's open up the floor to public comments, and let's start with the people here in the room. Thank you for making the trip down on a wet night. Does anybody have any public comments for the commission? Excellent. I'm going to take that as a no.
Zoom,
Anybody on Zoom have any public comments?
Diane. Diane, can you unmute yourself?
I also want to make a note, Andy Reardon joined the meeting as a committee member as well. You look short.
I feel short.
Diane, can you hear us?
Why don't you
There
chatter?
she is. She's there. We can't hear you.
You. You type a message in the chat.
Where's the chat? More chat. Oops. Oh, she's connected.
Click off of that.
Can anybody on Zoom hear Diane? Oh,
No.
oh,
This is
oh.
Diane.
We can kind of,
Hi.
you're breaking up a little bit. Now we
Oh,
can-
I'm sorry. Probably my reception in my house.
Okay.
Can you
Can you-
hear me now?
Yep, can you state your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Diane Jaspa. I live at 145 Feeding Hills Road, South.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I know that last meeting discussed the possibility of a plan alteration for the Crepes Tea House located at 157 Feeding Hills Road. We are a butter to that property, and I just wanted to go on record saying that I oppose any type of plan alteration due to the fact that continuously they've gone on record saying that they're showing us their plans and everything else, and they have not ever been transparent or have abided by the plans originally stated. They have not agreed to their request, the town's request to make them ADA compliant. And I think that until they make the appropriate changes, there should be no alteration to the plan that they originally submitted. And I just want to on record as saying that I really oppose it. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you for joining us and appreciate your comments. Anybody else on Zoom? All right, well, I have 7:07, so why don't we just jump right into the public hearings? The first public hearing is a continuation for 662A College Highway. Is there anybody here for the applicant? I don't see anybody. Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay, so we'll just continue this. How's that? So can I hear a motion to continue the hearing for 662A?
We'll move.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
So Norm second, Kevin, Norm made the motion, Kevin seconded. So Andy recused, Dave is an aye.
Aye.
Jerry's an aye, Mamet's an aye. All right, we're gonna move on with that one. The second hearing is NOI for 2426 Nicholson Hill Road. Do we have a legal ad?
Here.
Good evening. Hello there.
Hold on, guys, sorry. We can't open it until 7:10.
Would you prefer I do a tripod or do you put it up there?
Actually,
It's been a while.
yeah.
You can do both if you want.
Do we even have the tripod?
I got one.
You can use, like,
Okay. Well, while you do that, why don't we jump into a couple of housekeeping issues since we've got to wait 2 minutes for you anyways, Rob. How's that? So take your time setting that up. All right. Why don't we just jump right down to Granville Gorge update?
Andy?
I went up to the Granville Gorge a couple weeks back and put the plastic on the base of the plywood
Okay.
and there's still no roof. So I asked Sabrina if we can just keep that on the agenda every month so we continue to remind Brian we need a roof. Or can we just go get a roof without Brian?
I think we're just gonna have to go get a roof without Brian, to be quite honest with you, because that roof has been forthcoming for 8 months, if not longer. So, can we look into,
Is it just like already pre-cut and sitting over at IBS?
I don't believe so.
No, he was going to look at, or going to contact, or did contact the person who did the metal roof at North Pond.
Right.
Same material. He has the measurements. I don't know what the measurements are.
Yeah, I think at this point, we could really easy do a quick
You guys have experience with that, I
wood
trust you.
roof and shingles. I think that's,
If that's what you guys want.
yeah, I think we just need to get it done.
I mean, the metal is consistent with the other kiosks in town, other than the old ones on the pond. Like over there at Rising Corners, it's a little green metal, isn't it? And all the new ones are going in
I
that,
don't know.
and that keeps the snow coming off.
Yeah,
So if you can get,
Do we know who that was?
no. But if you guys want to do the roof, get a quote first, so then we can get a PO. Like, don't purchase it stuff yet. Okay?
take my word for it. Don't purchase.
Get a quote. And then we can,
I will make it a point to call Brian tomorrow,
okay,
all right?
Yep.
And have a
I
conversation.
think North Pond needed one last part also.
It needs the ridge vent. That's the
Okay,
ridge part of
whatever.
it, yeah. Yeah, Yeah, I know, he was gonna get that too, so why don't I get him to see if I can get that, if we do it on time.
Yeah, good.
All right, so the Southwick Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act 131.40 and the Southwick Conservation Commission Regulations Bylaws, Chapter 182 and Chapter 450 for a notice of intent via hybrid meeting, Zoom and in person. The project location is 2426 Nicholson Hill Road, map 65, parcel 157, and a lot of other numbers. The proposed project is for the construction of a two-family dwelling and associated site improvements, with the majority of the proposed work located within the buffer zone to an isolated vegetated wetland. So who do we have for the applicant? Can you state your name?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Rob Levesque from R. Levesque Associates.
Hi, Rob.
Hello, good evening. If it pleases the commission, I can start over here and work my way back. Is that fine?
Great.
Okay, so we're here for Mr. Lou Borelli. He's the proponent for the proposed duplex on the subject property. I understand that some commissioners were able to do a site visit. Subsequent to the site visit, we communicated with your conservation agent, and we're lucky enough to meet with your conservation agent, the planner, and Mr. McWilliams, related to what we're doing and why we're doing it. To give you a little bit of background, this is a owner-occupied, proposed home, owner-occupied. I believe, my understanding is Mr. Borelli will occupy unit 1, unit 2 will be occupied by the mother-in-law. Until which time he's, no longer occupied. For the foreseeable future, hopefully everybody is doing well and she'll be living there. The goal is to provide for her. In addition, obviously, subsequent to something happening, there's a possibility that it could be used as a rental or family could live there, et cetera. So just to be fully transparent. So what we're doing, proposing a duplex. This is a footprint that was developed by Laura Gay, the local architect or home designer. We're essentially what we're doing is we have a controlling grade here at the road. We're bringing a driveway up. In order to accommodate the home, we're cutting along the west side of the property, filling on the east side of the property. As you're aware, we have a number of constraints. Not only do we have the isolated wetland constraints, which we're showing an isolated wetland here and here for the respective buffer zones, 50 foot here being this line. It's a little hard to follow me probably, but it's this line here. And that continues on here. And then the 150 feet off of that. Same thing here, 50 and then 100. We know that the bylaw states essentially a no touch zone within the 50. So the previous plan that you saw, we were grading and trying to make everything work. Our controlling factors, like I said, are not.
Hey, Rob, can we just pause there for a second?
Sure.
So I don't know if we all saw the previous plan. I know the commissioners that went out on the visit saw it, but
Mhm.
did we look at that the last meeting?
No, we didn't
No,
look
just
at
the
it,
ones,
no.
yeah.
It is
So-
up, it's up, I
Okay.
think both plans are up on the website, so if you want, you can go and check out the previous plan as well.
But I just so Jerry wasn't there, Mamet wasn't there, and Kevin wasn't there. When we went out, the garage was actually on the back portion, and the driveway went all the way to the back of the house, which brought a lot of the actual building itself within the 50. And when we sat down, we kind of talked about getting that out of the 50 and worked with Rob and the owner to see if we could get the garage to the front and try and take as much out of the 50-foot buffer as possible. So this is a change based on the site visit that we saw and a conversation that we had after that.
Perfect, Dave, thank you. So absolutely accurate. So to note, there was disturbance in the 50 originally here, and there was also disturbance in this 50. Since then, we've been able to, like Mr. McWilliams had mentioned, we truncated the driveway, put the garage in the front, which allowed us to pull the grading away from the 50. So we're completely out of the 50, we're right at it, but we're completely out of the 50 here. And then we have a few feet for the septic system. It's not the system itself, but it's just a little bit of grading there that we weren't able to pull out. And then we were able to get out of the 50 here. So essentially, for all intents and purposes, we're out of the 50. We're able to accommodate all the Title V regulations. We have also in our discussions with Mr. Goddard, discussed some stormwater controls that we have a placeholder here for a stormwater rain garden. So that down gradient of the site, we can handle stormwater here, and those will be submitted to the planning board as part of a stormwater permit. Sounds like they're gonna want a stormwater permit. In the town of Southwick, the planning board is a permit granting authority for stormwater. This project under the DEP regulations wouldn't qualify for a stormwater permit because it's under 4 lots. That's the gist. So we've basically gotten out of the 50. We're gonna work real hard on maintaining these slopes. We do have some walls here that helped us pull out of the 50. Septic system, unfortunately for us and for Mr. Borelli, is up gradient of the house, but it is what it is. It will be a pump system. But it will be in an area that's well away from the resource area, which is back here. Same thing, well away from this resource area. With that, I'd be happy to answer the questions you have for sure.
What is your proposed plan for erosion control?
So we're showing two details here. One would be erosion control blanket. All these slopes are potentially erodible because of the slope. So we would do we have a North American green product that we like. It allows the vegetation to grow up through it, to biodegrade over time, but it's basically it's got a biodegradable plastic type material. I don't think it's technically plastic, but it's a polymer. And then there's like a straw work into it. So it really helps with the erosion, but it allows vegetation to come through. A lot of the blankets don't allow the site to vegetate. So we have that proposed, and we also we're showing a fiber roll. To clarify, I would not recommend the small, I think they call them wattles. Wattles arguably don't do much, and they're very low profile. So this would be like an erosion control log, something that, is
What's kind of the diameter of that?
typically over a foot. Yeah, so, we might sit about, between a foot and a foot and a half high, gets staked in, and it provides a much higher level of erosion control. And then when the material gets behind it, it's easy to clean out. Just, you can literally go through the skid steer and clean it out or pull it back with a nice grading bucket or something like that. That would be, here. And also the location of this last wall will also allow a lot of that earth to be retained by the wall as, they'll build the slope in the wall,
What, do you have like a side view of the walls? I mean, how tall are the walls gonna be constructed?
Do they come above grade?
They're designed to be 3 feet or less. If they need less because of the slope, but we're not exceeding 3 feet. We're anticipating that based on the depth of cut and just the fact that you're on Nicholson Hill, there'll be some nuggets potentially available. So, ideally they would use on-site material. If there's a need to import material, they can certainly do that. But these would be anticipated to be boulder walls versus a unilock wall or ready rock or anything like that. And on this side, we were able to accommodate the driveway with the new location with just the slope. So that would be,
What's the slope over there?
that's pretty steep. I believe it's 1.5 to 1. So this would likely be a landscape slope. These will be mowable. Granted, you want to be a little careful with the mower, but these would likely be something that they would end up planting.
What's the slope gonna wind up being down on the bottom?
I believe it's 2.5 to 1 versus 3 to 1. We ideally like to be 3 to 1, 2.5 to 1. Get us out of the buffer. I'm sorry, get us out of the 50-foot buffer in conjunction with the walls.
So on the uphill side of the wall, were they gonna be above grade? And obviously they go into the dirt there, but you can off the wall and then.
They'll be above grade by approximately 2.5 to 3 feet, depending on exactly the final.
All right, but probably they're gonna retain some water as well.
They'll
Or slow it down.
the detail we would recommend would collect the water behind the wall, and there'll be weed holes that they'll, and they're gonna be voids behind the wall, but there'll be, crushed stone behind the wall itself with fabric, et cetera.
Mhm.
But yeah, it'll intercept the water.
So your, what is it called again? Fiber roll? Is it gonna actually be like dug in? It says like 3 to 4 inches, so it's below the existing grade?
Yeah,
Do
so
you
they
dig it
could
in?
scrape the ground with a bucket.
Okay.
Typically, they would prep it with either a grading bucket,
Mm-hmm,
or even a skid steer, probably a grading bucket. And then they set it in, so there's a little bit of
yeah,
a recessed area to it.
yeah, that's
And
better.
then staked in as well. So they're good. They don't.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
like
if you've ever
that.
seen them installed, but
No, but I've seen wattles and I've seen erosion under the wattles, so.
Seen erosion over the wattles.
Over,
Yeah.
under, you know, all over the
the
place.
wattles are arguably, in my opinion, not worth.
Yeah,
Fine.
at least for
This is
that
very,
purpose.
this would be a much, and they get blown in on site. Typically, they look like a large, they look like a nylon that gets
Yeah,
expanded and they have a hopper that shoots, the material and it's a mulch, but it's also got vegetation and, I'm sorry, seed in it. So,
this has seed.
Yep.
Okay,
and there's a bunch of different kinds, but that's the idea. So that, and then the beauty of it is you don't have rotten straw bales, and silt fence integrated into the ground. And you can go along after the fact, take the stakes out and you take a utility knife and you run along it and you open it up and then
That's
you
what it goes.
just kick it over and rake it out.
Got coconut in it, so it's gonna go coconut. joint.
No one dates it.
No.
I don't think they're invasive here.
Right? I'm sorry. the pond
Yeah,
is
so-
operated.
Yeah, so what we're showing here is a placeholder. We anticipate that the planning board is gonna want some stormwater controls related to the house. Mr. Brown was on vacation last week. He's allowed to do that apparently. I didn't know that.
sometimes.
He
So,
snuck off.
we're gonna be in touch with them to talk about the specifics of what storm event they typically
Mhm.
want a lesser storm event. Than, maybe your, commercial application. So trying to keep that size down for the proponent, but at the same time accommodate and make sure that engineering department is.
Is there a secondary one along the road as well?
There is, yeah, it's just a place, it's really just a subtle depression. We have, because of the cut here, we're cutting down about 10 feet. That the slope cuts into the existing grade, when we're right at this edge of our driveway. So we're picking that up in a swale and we'll have a French drain that'll intercept any groundwater that's coming through. And then we're picking that up in a couple area drains up front, running it under the driveway to a little flared end. And that will run down in this, essentially a swale that's created by our grading and the existing grade. And that will end up. So just basically conveying the water that's currently going in that direction, just making sure we're conveying it and getting it past the driveway. so to speak.
Okay. I know there was a question on whether or not the down gradient wetland was isolated or not. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, so, there was a question regarding that. Ryan Nelson from my office went out. There's an email. I think they-
Mhm.
I can read it. I was out in the field today. I looked at this area at the time of delineation and deemed it the culvert not to be a resource area nor to be connected to other delineated resource areas. The HDP culvert is a riprap armored inlet at the collection. Terminal overland stormwater during large rain events. The culvert connects to the nearest catch basin in Nicholson Hill Road. There is no channelization, scouring, or evidence of hydrology leading to this riprap inlet. The surrounding soils are not hydric and the vegetation is predominantly upland vegetation, goldenrod, sumac, raspberry, oriental, bittersweet, and multiflora rose. There is no hydraulic connection between the wetland and this, that was delineated in this drainage structure. So, Ryan Nelson.
Thank you.
Excellent, thanks.
He does have photographs. I'm not sure if you guys want to see them.
I had a question that's kind of sort of for Lou more than Rob, and it's kind of, it's not in our, on
Okay,
our table, but 25 years from now, somebody's gonna come in and want a second driveway for the other half. Did you design this house so that you can open it up into a single family at some point? So that we don't have to deny somebody a second driveway?
Hey, Mr. Borelli, if you're gonna respond, can you just state your name and address, please?
My name is Lou Borelli. I'm at 16 Tobacco Road,
Right.
but we're just asking me to open it up. No, the house wouldn't be opened up, but
No, I just mean like 20,
anything can be opened up.
right, like,
I don't know what you want to do.
I can tell you that, like, there will not be the ability to accommodate a proposed driveway on the eastern side only because we can't make the grades work. There is a grade requirement, so it's one shot. It's a one-shot deal. Try to be the driveway on the west side only. So you know that, right?
Yeah.
but it's,
Making sure.
That's all that.
Yeah.
right, yeah. So I just wanted to ask 25 years down the road when someone comes in, could you deal with that with the
I mean,
shared
you can make anything
driveways and all
one
that?
family. Just
Right.
Cut a hole through the wall and
Easy enough.
One heck of a one family.
Yeah, it'll be a nice big house, but that's what's over there, right? Yeah. It won't be able to scale with everything else in Southwood.
Do we have any other questions from anybody on the commission? Okay, so if you'd like, we can take a motion to close up. Before we do that, let's talk about bonding and let's talk about, well, first off, I want to make a motion to close the hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Norm made the motion, Jerry seconded, Mamet? Kevin?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Okay. So regarding the project itself, before we take a motion, are we looking at anything on the order of conditions other than bonding? And if we're going to be doing bonding, are we doing our typical bond?
Did we hear from abutters on this? Do you have any questions from abutters?
I do. Are there any abutters? And are there any questions from the abutters?
About this?
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
All right, so is anybody looking for anything above and beyond on the order of conditions?
Does it need any type of monumentation?
Yep. So typically monuments on the 50. I think we're looking at 20 feet. So some sort of monumentation on the 50s.
Have we defined them or put them on the?
Well, no, we can ask. I mean, that's what
Yeah,
we're
we
here
have
for.
the limit of work shown. This wall here will be pretty consistent, arguably with the 50, so maybe
Yeah.
that would act. But if we were to supplement,
Some of those nuggets.
yeah, something low profile. We've gone back and forth over the years, but we've had sites where they've asked for signs and they've asked for them fairly close. Yeah, it really does. So if we can do something fairly low profile that, a bound, a monument, something like a boulder, whatever, something like that.
Typically boulders are sufficient. We had someone come in and they actually use like aluminum stamped plates that say wetland beyond this boundary,
You can
which
order
is
those. yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
But that boundaries, I mean, boulders are typically what we've asked for. They're tough to move.
I guess yes, we'll have a few extra.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's one of the things for the order of conditions is monumentation boulders.
Did you say every 20 feet, 25 feet?
I think we've always gone every 20 feet,
20 feet along the
50.
50. That's doable, right? To do it all along the 50?
Yeah, it's doable. 20 feet is rather close. And again, it's not a showstopper in any way, but they are, when you see them in the field, 40 feet. So 50 is probably gonna, at the vertices, this is 50 feet, we can have one here, probably one at the corner, we can have an interim one at the corner. Whatever makes sense, but I can tell you, when you get 20 feet in the field, it looks pretty close.
Let's just make sure they're,
Visible,
yes,
Yeah. Absolutely.
bond,
Standard bond, 10,000?
$10,000 bond. Anybody agreeing, disagreeing? Okay,
So
anything else?
Can we just clarify on what we should be looking for where the boulders should be? So not 20.
Like perhaps
Like, I just-
at the vertices at any angle point or change in direction.
I just want to know what to look for when we do the certificate of compliance.
Yeah. That looks good, Rob.
They're right there. How about, I could leave it to the commission and we will
Ooh,
update the plan
signature.
accordingly. So it would be, I guess, here, here. Still all these
Yeah,
points.
plus or minus 50 feet and at the turns,
If that works.
if you ever put it in the language.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boulders along the property line in conjunction with the
wall.
The wall.
That's good.
So now I will entertain a motion on the project. If you want to accept the project, you vote to accept it.
Make the motion to accept the project.
Annie made a motion. Do we have a second? Seconded by, those are our orders
are-
and conditions.
Yeah, the Southwick bylaw orders.
Yep.
and conditions. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if you.
Standard order of conditions, no.
Okay.
Who seconded? Wilmet seconded. Kevin?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Dave? Aye. Lauren?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell me when you're ready to move on.
Nine to. It was a 4.
4540127. Okay, all right. Do we have the legal ad? So the next public hearing is going to be for 21 White Street. The proposed project is to repair an existing seawall along the shoreline of Congamon Lake. So the Southwick Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act. 131.40 in the Southwick Conservation Commission Regulations and Bylaws, Chapter 182 and Chapter 450. For a request for determination, the location is 21 White Street. The project is for the replacement of a portion of the seawall within 100 feet of Congamon Lake. The hearing is taking place here. What do we have for the applicant?
Ron Mueller, 21 White Street.
Come on up. So what do you have for us today, sir?
Well, I got all the pictures that you wanted and they did all the other stuff, the notice of intent. And I mean, the notice to the abutters and everything else. And I just want to say, I'm not going to do anything that's going to evaluate my property. All right, I've done a lot of research on it, and being an ex-construction man, I did a lot of thinking, and this is the best way to do it without tearing up everything, making a big mess. And first of all, there isn't room; it's only 20 feet. You get an excavator down there or anything else, and you're gonna rip it all to hell. And what's underneath there, I don't even want to know. So, I mean, it's basically a drop-in concrete blocks. There's a letter, I don't know if you have it there, from the concrete company. It's saying it meets all standards of being submerged in water or near water.
Right here. This one, right?
Yeah,
That's on the.
Right. all right. Just a couple weeks ago, I took a ride up to Highland Pond, where they did one about 15 years ago, similar to mine. It goes down a hill in the house, and it looks good. It's been there. Talked to the owner. He had no problems with it. But ice push, and they weigh 2,000 pounds apiece. So
Start pushing.
they're pretty heavy, and I'm doing it just because I want to do it once the rest of my life. And the reason why I chose this block that maybe in a few years, I want to do the wall that holds the road up, because I own right to the edge of the road. And I want to do it in this block also. So it'd be, you know, equal looking and it looks nice. I've seen walls done with it. And it's just the most economical and safe way. You know, to do it without, like I say, causing a big mess. I don't have to bring in all kinds of material or anything. I'm highly against stones because of the mess that was in that crib wall when the ice pushed it up. It took a whole week to clean all that mess up. It was a couple of tons of stone.
Do you have those pictures?
Yeah.
It's in
Yeah,
black and white.
that's a picture of them there. They're 8 foot by 20, by 24 by 36 high. And they're set in so that, you know, you can see they got two, holes there and they're set in. So that they don't tip or anything. You can pick them up and put them in. They're gonna do excavator has to do it.
Does this actually sit on the current wall that's there?
No, it's gonna be, oh, I don't know if you know what a crib wall is. There's one wall and then there's another one in front of it.
Yeah.
They fill it with stones and they tie them together. Okay, so we usually got two walls filled with stones. What happened was,
So here's the current wall,
yeah, well, that's, yeah.
Right.
That's
and then he
basically-
wants to put the stones in front, because the previous
Oh,
wall in front of it was crushed from just
I mean,
ice
yeah.
moving in the winter.
Over the years. And this way here, everybody that I spoke to and working in construction, you'll want to keep as much as the natural ground there. You don't want to disturb it and, because it's going to weaken it and you know what happens after that. So this way here, it's done and it's over with and it looks nice.
Do these things kind of settle after a while?
No, the guy, I thought so. When I last time here, I said, they were going to put it on timbers.
Yeah.
I misunderstood the guy. If you have a real soft mucky area, they recommend timbers.
Yeah.
So you don't get this type of thing.
Right.
But he says, since you're all gravel, it's all gravel there. He says, you just level it out, use the water as a level, you know, and he says, just rake it out so that it's level and put them in.
And you said ice push isn't a problem?
No, I mean, I tell you, we get ice pushed down here. I don't know why, but I mean, like I told you, one year we had it all the way up to the road.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
but, you know, last year they didn't even freeze.
They look pretty sturdy.
Oh, they are. You gotta really look at them, to really see them. And also the guy sent me pictures of them that they use. And this one here, that's up in Lake George.
Oh.
I know exactly where that is because I've used it. And that's in the one block. I mean, that's like 4 blocks down,
Yeah.
not because of this laid right on top, but it's because that's how deep the water is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's been there, geez, I've been going to Lake George for years and that's been there. So it's a simple project. I mean, like I said, I want it easy on myself and easy on the pocketbook and, you know, just put it in. I don't have to worry about it again and it's there,
Okay.
you know, forever.
I don't see who the manufacturer is on this and I couldn't read the thing. Who's the
Manufacturers, Aero Concrete,
Harold?
Aero, they're just right up the road here. Yeah.
Did you write that? Was that written somewhere?
Well, it's on the letter that he gave you.
The one that,
Yeah, the one at the you know, the contractor wrote
okay,
on the block.
the one that's up on the,
Yeah, that one, yeah.
so arrow.
Yeah. Adam is the guy who, you know, was in charge of it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Aero Concrete Products.
Right. And the only, like I said, the only stuff that I'll bring in, I only need probably about maybe 10 wheelbarrows, topsoil. And then I'm gonna get some, depends where you are. People in the Midwest call it turf. They call it sod up here. It's just rolled up grass,
Right,
because grassy deer would never grow with the overspray and everything.
do we have questions? For the applicant? Comments?
Seems like he's done his homework, we've around, seen a bunch of examples of how well it works.
Oh, yeah, I was surprised when I first saw it. And I mean, I've seen these, there's one in here, but this, you told me this one here is some trail up in, I probably can't find one. This one here. It's up, that's next to the Weathersfield Cove, he said. That one there. And he said, and as the water goes up halfway, you know, and if you've ever been by to Weathersfield Cove, it floods the whole place out there. So I mean, that's, and they do hold and, you know, and they're economical, if you don't have to put, pour the cement. It's just putting them in.
All right, so Mr. Ludorf, why don't we just turn it back over to the commission here? So if there's no questions, do I hear a motion to close the hearing?
We need to ask the audience or the public first.
Any abutters that have any questions? So I'll still take a motion.
So move, close the hearing.
Norm made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Jerry seconds it. Andy?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Romet?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Okay, so now moving on to the actual project itself. Standard order of conditions, as far as the work is being actually done in the resource area, so asking for. What are we talking about?
Monuments, don't need them.
Don't need, we definitely don't
I mean,
need.
that's the
monument.
monument.
Yeah, there is one there.
And erosion control, I mean,
Don't need it.
yeah,
No, it's on the road. I mean, it's gonna put them up.
bond. What are we thinking for bond?
We're talking about taking material out. I think we
No.
discussed that last time.
No material
You're
be
not
taken
taking
out.
anything out, so.
Nothing's gonna be taken out. And like I said, it's my property and I'm not gonna leave it a mess. I mean, believe me. That was my first thing that I thought of. Cause I've seen some of the stuff around the lake here, what people do, and I
Okay.
didn't want that.
So what's the thoughts on bond?
Typical.
Your standard, the base is 10,000.
Right.
I think those are cheap as dirt, but honestly,
You know, like I said, the budget is a problem, but I want to get it done before winter because
Okay,
it's not gonna last.
well, if nobody on the committee has a problem with the standard bond, we'll write that into the order of conditions.
Okay.
Okay,
And I want to thank Sabrina here for doing, helping me out a lot. I mean, I tell you, it was a mess. But we
he's
got
good,
that.
but don't tell him you say.
No, well, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know,
So I'll take a motion on the project. If you want to accept it, it's accept or decline.
I'll make a motion to accept the project.
Matt made the motion to accept. Do I have a second?
we'll second the motion. to
Andy
accept
seconded. Norm,
aye.
Dave, aye. Jerry?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Okay, now what I do, I don't know.
Reach out to her. You guys communicate on next.
Oh, we know each other real good now.
You're not done with her yet.
Another project.
I'm
You're
not
not done with
Yeah.
it, all right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Right.
All right, the next hearing is an RDA for 11 North Pond Road. The proposed project is removal of trees within 100 feet of Congamon, Lake Congamon. Is there a legal notice? Thank you. The Southwick Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing under the Wetlands Protection Act, 131.40 in the Southwick Conservation Commission Regulations and Bylaws, Chapter 182 and Chapter 450 for a request for determination. The project location is 11 North Pond Road. The project is for the removal of trees within 100 feet of Lake Congamon. The meeting is taking place here and now. There you go. Who do we have for the applicant?
I think I do that short story.
You did. Well, come on up. Can you just,
Yeah.
name, rank and serial number?
Carol Philo, unranked, no serial number,
Okay.
11 North Pond Road, Suffolk, Mass. Still,
Welcome.
thank you.
There you go.
Hi, Chair. So Mother Nature decided to dump a tree that's basically at the water's edge of our property into the lake. And we'd like to have it removed. And in the process of having a tree company show up at the house to talk about removing it, we identified a second tree about 50 feet, 60 feet back, further back. That you can see from the picture on the screen. At the base, there's a vertical crack going diagonally from about the base up 5 to 6 feet. On the lower right, there's a horizontal crack that's about 10 feet up. And then if you go up about 20 feet, there's an open wound where it looks like there's carpenter ants that have been in there for quite a while. And then basically in that center picture, the upper left part, you can see a big branch that goes out and extends. Not only goes out over the lake, but it goes well toward the lake. The end of that branch has since broken off since the first tree fell and is now laying on the hill. So we think that tree is in jeopardy of going as well. The tree in the water, as you can imagine, has attracted a lot of fishermen recently. And in my opinion, that second tree is a hazard, not that it's going to fall tomorrow. It hasn't fallen yet, but certainly a danger to anybody who decides to park their boat nearby and enjoy the lake during the day or on the weekend, or any fishermen that like to hang out around there.
Who came in from the tree service? Which company did it?
A&B Tree Service. They did the work on the property removing the trees for the beachfront area.
Okay.
Did Randy looked at the second tree and he didn't see an emergency situation?
Other pictures.
Different than the ones. I guess I'm gonna need help.
We'll
from,
pass them around.
Oh, those pictures, yeah, sorry, here, I got two sets. Apologies for being a delinquent.
Sure. Those are new, right? I don't have them. Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, that's pretty good right there. Yeah.
Oh, those are,
I wouldn't want to cut that.
yeah, I mean, our biggest concern is when we had the trees taken down for the waterfront work. The trees from a visual standpoint look perfectly fine, healthy, full canopy, full leaf. And the amount of deterioration inside was absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
There was one around 4 foot in diameter, had about 2 inches, 3 inches around the whole perimeter. So there's clearly ants in the hill, and we have a lot of concern
Well,
about
if
the
you cut
trees.
down the trees, they're gonna move into your house. You might want to leave the trees up.
The trees might move into the house too, Andy.
Okay, so we obviously know the tree in the water's gotta go. As far as the tree on the hill. I guess that's the one that's open for debate. I think. When Randy went out and looked at it. With Sabrina. It didn't warrant an emergency removal, which is now why it's come before us. We have the. Authority to grant the removal of the tree if we think it's a threat that may not be an emergency, meaning imminent, which is what Randy would get involved in with Sabrina. So
Did Randy have an opinion when he was there, other than it's not an emergency? Like, it should come down, but it's not an emergency?
He said just file an RDA and see what the commission says.
But he felt it should come down, or?
he felt he passed the buck.
Yeah, it's up to you guys now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just like, look at the crack. right? Um. That's something right there, I think.
Well, we just approved removing of the trees over in Berkshire that had the same exact characteristics, right? Abutting trees that were hollow, cracks going taller than we were. Personally, I don't have an issue with it. If anybody else does.
I don't,
You might want to just explain like how the trees are gonna be taken down, how they're gonna be removed. Are you guys gonna use the wood?
No, not using
Okay.
wood.
Okay.
As far as the one in the water, my understanding is they'll drag it back as far as they can, section it. That there's no intent to do any work in the water and drag the sections up the hill and remove them, dispose of them off the property. The one that's up, because of the situation, someone's gonna have to climb and drop it in sections. And the same thing, they'll drag it the rest of the way up the hill and remove the remnants from the property.
You're not stumping it though, you're gonna leave the
So I'll
stump?
leave the stump.
Okay, that's important.
how close to the water is that?
There's a map
The second one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right here
it's,
about,
well, it's not, my measurement isn't horizontal, Jerry, but I think it was like 50, 60 feet
Oh, okay. So it's
going
not-
off the top of my head.
It's not
We
right
put it
on.
in the application.
Okay.
No, but if it fell, again,
It
the
would
top
go-
of the tree would definitely be in the water.
Okay.
And we've also got the concern because of the proximity to the shed. So if it fell the right direction, it could
Yeah.
easily take the shed out.
Okay.
All right,
I'll make a motion. Motion is that we give a negative determination
excellent.
for the removal of both trees.
I'll second.
So the motion was made by Norm, seconded by Jerry, Andy.
Aye.
Dave, aye. Matt, Kevin,
Aye.
excellent. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
All right, so we're done with our public hearings for the evening. We're moving on to new business. So the first thing under new business is a preliminary discussion with Sole Source Power about a proposed solar project. So who do we have for a sole source?
Hi, I'm on Zoom. Can you hear me? Glenn Land?
And I'm Steve Long.
Glenn, we can hear you.
Okay, so, well, first of all, good evening. And as I said, my name is Glenn Land. And
Hey,
I work
Glenn.
as a project developer with Sole Source Power. We're based out of Troy, New York.
Glenn.
And,
hold on.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn.
oh, I'm
Hey.
sorry. I was just jumping right into it.
Yeah, we gotta get your details, my friend.
All
you're-
right, let's do
You're
it.
Glenn, you're with Sole Source. And an address, please, sir. What town are you from?
I live in Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
Okay,
Land.
all right, excellent. Same,
Steve Long from Sole Source Power.
thank you. All right, sorry, Glenn. Pick up where you left off.
All right. And so I am a project developer with Sole Source, and as a company, we are based out of Troy, New York. And we're here to basically share our preliminary layouts on 2 potential solar sites and get the feedback from the committee so we can properly move forward. And also in attendance is Bob Grimaldi, the owner of what we're calling College Solar, and that's at 787 College Highway in Southwick. And Bobby Baker is owner of Sawmill Solar at 43 Will Palmer Road, also in Southwick. The first site 63 acres, and the second site is 86 acres. For a brief history, we started exploring the possibility of solar development with the landowners last summer. Since then, we've had a preliminary study done to determine the cost to interconnect with Eversource and a wetlands delineation completed. And being both the feeder and the 29A Southwick substation are at capacity, we will have to upgrade both. So these 2 projects are kind of connected together for the overall feasibility to work. We're hoping that both projects can move through. And So I'm here to share, like, we've done preliminary layout based on topography, parcel line setbacks, the wetlands delineation, and of course, Southwick's wetland buffer setback. And I'll share here these shortly. But a couple quick things to note, that on the wetland buffers, we did not go into all of them. And some we went into just like a maximum of 50 feet, usually for the purpose of possibly removing some trees for shading or for fencing. And again, this is very preliminary, and we are here to get the committee's feedback on what we're thinking so we can move properly forward. There were a couple very small wetlands were identified via the delineation. And by small, I mean some as small as 8/1000ths of an acre, which the owners, if you have any questions on those, can attest to their history. So at this point, I think I'll just get right into it and share the first layout of College Solar One. And I welcome the commission to ask any questions at any time, and the landowners and our civil engineer to chime on in.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, now hopefully if all goes well here, I can share my screen. Oh, it looks like the host has disabled participant sharing screen.
Control freak.
What do I do? Multiple participants can share simultaneously. Should I just click it and see what happens?
You
Okay,
could
try
try,
again.
yeah. Okay, try again. Oh, look
Yeah.
at that. Look at that. We are. let's
Are
see.
we? Oh, yes.
Let's see. Can you see?
Yeah.
Yep.
See this? Okay, fantastic. So let me go into the college layout here. I'll first kind of identify the rules of the road and this multicolor thing we're looking at here. Is the red outline going around here is of course the parcel boundary. Within here is obviously the solar array that we're proposing. The green is the fence line. And then you'll see, can you see these blue outlines going around? These are all the areas where the delineation identified as wetlands. And just, so what we did two buffers. So you'll see two double red lines. So one is a 50-foot buffer and one's a 100-foot buffer. And as you notice, a lot of these, we're just not even going to get into close at the buffer at all. Some of these, for the purpose of this, we're showing, hey, what if we kind of cut this corner here for a fence line and some arrays that technically is going to go into the 100-foot buffer. And just kind of wanted to give you a visual representation of what we're looking at, just so we could make this a little bit more geometric, because there's a lot of efficiencies involved with the shape of it. But some of that would mean going into some of the buffers, and a big reason we're here tonight is to kind of get your feedback. Like, is that going to be, feasible or something we'd be open to discuss moving forward on our designs.
So Glenn, I think our first inclination is always no, don't go into the buffers, but let's hear the rationale behind it. I mean, is it just, you said some of it's for shading, is it for capacity? I mean, what is the company's rationale for having to go into the buffers?
I can answer that a little bit.
Okay,
So it's a tracker system which goes north and south. So we're trying to get to the geometry because there's certain lengths. The trackers come in certain lengths based on the motor. So we're trying to get the efficiency and lay out the site as best we can. So some places pushes into the buffer a little bit just based on geometry. And that's where it ends up. So we're just trying to fit where you've got kind of circular offsets. We're trying to fit squares in, and that's where we're trying to get relief into the buffer.
where is the area where you're infringing the most into the buffer? Is it the upper left or the upper right?
Looks like the lower side, upper left, and similarly.
Okay. Up here, and then where this wetland kind of points, the point comes out right here, pushes the buffer, as you can see, into the array. So that's where we're looking, as Steve said, to try and
I'm having a hard time seeing the colors, and that's me not not your map. Is it in the 50 or the 100?
There you go. That's-
So.
The blue line is the wetland, the
Yeah.
second,
Okay,
So
Can you
maybe.
see blue?
I can see
You're
blue.
almost
I-
into the-
I'm having a hard time with the red.
Okay, the red line here, that's the
This
100.
grid is going all the way up. Does this propose the light, the blue versus this stone? So here you have this much in the 100,
Okay,
okay? And then here you have all this in the 100 and just barely touching the 50.
okay.
So this is all 100. The rest seems clear. I'm assuming the dark blue is the dark blue anything?
The dark blue is trackers,
Also?
all, yes, it is, yeah,
Oh, yeah, well, that's all in there then.
right.
And then if you got more on this side, this is, that's the 50, that's the 100, so all of this is between 100 and 50, and then all of this here.
but the green line is the
This part
fence
here
line.
is fine,
Yeah.
but
The
it's
green
kind of
line,
like, it touches the 100 and sometimes it encroaches into the 50. All right?
yeah, but the
Yes.
lime
Yeah.
green is the fence line, so they're gonna be cutting, their limit of work is gonna be all the way to the green line, I'm assuming, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. and
So
that's
you're
what
really
it's
going like
about
right
here,
almost right up to the wetland
within
area.
the wetland, right?
No, we're in it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and again, I know this is preliminary and this is like obviously up here in the corner, that is too close to the wetland, so we would move that back. So we definitely don't want to go into any wetlands and try and restrict it to not moving past 50 feet.
Yeah, so the fence usually goes 20 feet from the edge of the array.
So you can navigate around.
So that can be pulled in. I'm not sure why it ended up at that shape. So if you look at where the blue array is, the fence can be 20 feet off that, so that we can bring that in. That green line can be brought in the whole way around.
Yeah,
So I
like
think
right,
it's-
How
Right
far
here
is
is
the line off the panels now? Do you,
It looks like
it's
quite a bit.
very-
I'm gonna tell you right here.
that's 20 feet way up where it's tight?
This is 20.
Yeah,
rest
so,
is-
so you're probably like 80 feet,
Yes,
so you could bring it in a lot.
yes.
Everywhere.
I think there was a lot of thought to where the tracker's going, not
Yeah.
the fence.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, as you can see, like down here on the southern side, he has, I understand for right here, because it looks like that there's the hammerhead for access. But these fence lines would definitely snug up, but it's not like this is really, because it does go into a little bit down here. Can you see my thing sonaring on the screen?
Yeah.
there? Yeah, okay. And as Steve just pointed out, it's mainly the layout of the tracker system versus the fence. We know the fence, like there's a limit to how far we can push it in, for sure, if at all.
You're taking down all the trees within the fence.
Yeah.
And a lot of the trees outside of the fence.
We only need 10 feet outside the fence, to put the
Okay.
fence in.
So
I think at the south end, we'd be taking more trees because of shading.
That might need to be delineated to show how
We-
far into the buffers you're going to take trees out.
Yeah, exactly.
And
You'd have to do that.
the property itself, is that wooded, it's right now?
Mhm.
So we're gonna take down a whole
That's a
bunch of
forest.
trees.
It's a lot of trees. We can
That's a full
quantify
blown
that.
forest right
Now,
now.
what's the slope of the land?
I don't know.
The slope is very, very favorable. It's, I know it's probably definitely under 10%. Bob, would you happen to know what your average sloping is on the land?
I'm sorry, can you just introduce yourself, please? That's okay.
Bob Grimaldi, the owner of the property,
Okay, your address, Bob?
206 Silver Street in Granville, Mass.
Okay, thanks.
Farm decided. There's a 55-foot deflection. This came from an old geological map I read years ago, but I'm sure you can check it out. It was done by the government in 48. My uncle had it done. 55 foot from College Highway to the top, and then it slopes back down the other way. It's a gradual slope and with an east-west ocean. There's a couple of mitigating circumstances I'd like to explain too, knowing the property like I do and working it most of my life. This area right in here, we dug a pond in 50 there and hopefully used for irrigation. Most every August it had about 6 inches of water, so it was pretty much used to it. And I wish we filled it back in. Well, going to the north is just I spoke with a gentleman that did the delineation, and I know he's looking for soils that are there so they can determine what's there for water. Now, I'm 73, and over the lifetime that I walked this property from the pond north, I've seen it where there was a foot of water, and I've seen 10 foot of water, depending on the year. It's a deluge year, so there's probably more than that. Most August, you can walk through it and there's nothing there. This year, there's probably more water. My question, or actually I brought up this when we had a short meeting. From this point forward, there's hardly any water, but there is, the delineation shows that there's water there. My question is I've never seen it more than about 15 feet at the worst years to the right and left. We have 100-foot buffers to the east and west. If we put a solar panel or solar column up there and put solar on top of it, would it be that important to keep it 100 foot from that
Yes,
area where?
yes.
most-
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but we're gonna defer to the wetland scientists that did the delineation as to whether or not it's a wetland. I mean, that's their specialty, right?
You know, when I looked at our project too, by the way, we had about 10 acres back here, we hay, it's scrub right now, it's starting to grow up, so it's not all wooded. It's wooded in the center, yeah, I was back in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wooded in the center, of course, we logged about every 25 or 30 years. Now, there's another situation we have down here. The place to raise the map just a little bit. Okay. See if I can. You're here. My cousin, here we go. There's a strip right here. This is my cousin. He wanted to give me this. I said, no, hold on. He's an extraordinary short guy. He lives next door. He's had medical difficulties for a few years, cancer victim, and he's holding on by a thread. But I said, we don't have the money to buy it right now, but if a project goes through, we would buy probably her teeth and give her life estate with it, but at least buy the teeth in the back. Now, she wanted to turn it over to me already, and I said, no, because I don't know if we're gonna do this, so I can't, but at any time, she will, give it.
So what's the point, I guess?
The point is, we can add 125 feet to our boundary line in this area. And back here, behind Wingfield, is open land. So in this area, if we were 2 feet or 50 feet or 100 feet, would it be that a problem?
It doesn't matter. So let's go back to the root issue, right? The wetland buffer.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether you're north, south, east, or west.
I understand.
How you become within proximity of the buffer is the same.
Right.
So if you're saying you have high and dry land down there that you can build on that would take away from what's in the wetland buffer up north, then have at it, man. I think we'd all be in agreement with that. If you're saying add to the project and encroach on the buffer more, I think we're just walking backwards.
I know what you're saying, but we're farmers.
Mhm.
We're not gonna put a foundation there. We're not gonna build a house. I had a guy want to buy the place and put 105 condos, but we're against it.
Well, they'd run into the same problem with us that we're having right here.
I mean, we call it a solar farm.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's still farming, you're putting under the same constraints that somebody would be if they were building a home. I mean, if we put up solar here and you took it down in 30 years, well, yeah, the same thing you have now. We're not gonna change anything, you know, I think my objection, if I may, is that they lump farming, solar farming in with construction. And we are gonna build something here, but once you remove it, it's the same thing that was there before. If somebody puts a house or a parking lot or a condo or manufactured building.
I appreciate your opinion. We're here to discuss the Wetland Protection Act, which is the law, right? So,
I'm behind it.
okay, so regardless of opinion, we are looking at encroaching on the wetlands, and our conversation today is how do we mitigate that to the best that we can? All right, and if that's opening up land that's not in the wetlands that you can build on as opposed to where you're currently encroaching on it, then that's a great idea. But if that's not the case, then we need to address what we're looking at here. And, you know, understanding this is preliminary, right? So we're not voting on this tonight anyways. You just want our opinion, and I appreciate that. I'm sure we all appreciate that. But I think that, you know, this is good that you came in and you showed it to us. I think we've already identified one area where there can be a correction made, which is the distance between the fence and the arrays. But we're still talking about, you know, wetland encroachment, right? So, you know, I think if you were to ask us in a perfect world, what would we like? You know, everything high and dry, you know, so let's find some middle ground.
I appreciate that.
You know, so there's 2 parcels and 2 projects you want to take a look at.
Yep.
So before we move on to the second project, Glenn, you got ahead of me. Is there any other questions, comments? Again, preliminary, we're not voting on this, but this is an opportunity to give them an opportunity to go back and rework, so.
So this color here is solar array.
Yep.
And this color here is also solar
Yep.
array, all the way out through here.
Why is it different?
I don't know. The design engineer, I think I asked him to change it all the same color and it didn't, and yeah, I'm not sure.
I think it has to do with the racking height. Is what
Yeah.
I heard from Owen, but both colors do represent the array.
A lot more solar actually coming into the 50s or into the 100, right to the 50 in here.
Let's just get rid of that color.
Well, there's some in the middle.
And this is your driveway in. This is
Yep,
what you call the hammerhead, that's your driveway.
right.
I mean, basically, it's all light green,
Back here, there's a lot.
regardless of the shade of blue.
Back there.
It's all light green. So if it actually goes into effect, it'll be all light green all the way into the buffers. Some of them encroaching into the 100 and the 50, some into the 50.
Right.
So you really, if you want to stay out of the wetland, literally have to stay out of the wetland. I don't know what that does for your project or kilowatts or whatever. I don't understand it. But I mean, you'd have to shrink the whole thing down to size to stay out of all the parts where it's touching the red. That makes sense?
We
Yeah.
keeping the tree removal out of the 50s. Also,
Well,
because they're proposing to take the trees down all the way to the wetland on the
Right.
right middle. The south crop, right? The tree removal goes into the wetland.
and then we'd be 10 feet outside of that.
All of the 100 as well.
Yeah, they said they need 10 feet past the fence line
Yeah.
on the other side of the well.
The fence needs to be fixed.
But
That's
even,
everything.
even so, in that case, you're not working in the buffer, you're working in the resource area at that point.
Which we would have to take that out.
Yeah.
So we'll call it limit of work, not fence line, limit of work, and you need 10 feet beyond the fence.
To put the
Limit of
fence
work,
in.
keep as much of that outside the 50.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're gonna have to come back before us. We're not gonna iron this out, but I think we just want to give you a sense of what you're gonna be, the conversation's
No, that-
gonna be
that
like
helps
when
a
you come
lot.
back.
And maybe on a future plan, show limit of work. That's, because that's what ultimately we care about the most, you know.
It's
if
more
you get the
important than
fence-
fence line, almost.
Almost, yeah, limit of
yeah,
work, yeah.
Certainly, yeah, actually is more important than the fence line.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
So could you just elaborate on why you would need to work within the 100-foot buffer? Like what does that mean for the project?
Steve, you want to answer that? or you want me?
It was just a decreased system size. We're in the
Yeah.
tracker is just the lengths. If you look, they come in certain lengths. So we're just trying to fit the most geometric shape that works for us. And I'm not sure, we'll have to look at what the system size we need to make it work for us. But that's why we were pushing into the buffers. The buffers are circular and these are squares. So we're trying to make it work. And that's why we're ending up pushing into the buffers.
Okay.
So, you hate me.
These still individual panels just mounted and they
They're-
rotate like a sunflower, they follow the
Nope,
sun?
they're gonna be mounted on a rack that rotates east-west.
Okay, so, all right,
So they're like this. They go
Okay.
like this with the sun during the day.
and your racks run north-south?
Yep. And then in the morning they'll face east, yep, row, correct.
You can break a row up.
Well, you can break a row
Or
up into a
not,
certain
radius.
length based on whatever the rack size is, and it's
Right.
based on the motor, and they only sell them in certain sizes. So that's why we're limited by, I don't know, remember what the lengths are, but
Right.
that's what we're using, like, consistent lengths.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
Norm, you have something?
Just to comment, so there's no surprises later. Minimizing tree removal in the 50 or the 100 foot is very important to me.
Yep.
Is the project possible? If you guys don't go into the buffer?
Well, we're trying to figure, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg scenario to where, we are gonna have to upgrade both the substation and do dedicated feeders, which is, as you can imagine, very costly, not that that's your issue. And so what we're trying to do is we have a few missing pieces of our equation. So if we can kind of get a feeling for what the maximum size we can do, then we can start plugging in numbers into the equation to see if this will actually be a feasible project for either one, because it's not going to be like a one or the other. It's if both go through, maybe it's still feasible. And so at this point, we're just trying to determine the maximum size we can make it, and then we can kind of plug in our numbers from there. So that's a little bit of the difficulty we're up against, and that's why we're seeing if there's any room to go into these buffers, whether it's just do a little bit of clearing for shading or what, so we can get a little bit more of an exact model to then go into a further study with Eversource to get the exact cost. But as you can imagine, that's all quite costly. And so part of our purpose is to see, well, how big can we actually make these with still, trying to be in accordance with the law, and also seeing, hey, would it be okay if we went in for tree clearing, not for tree clearing? Can we put any of the fence in there, not any of the fence in there? And I know it's not any determination is going to be made tonight, but we just wanted to kind of get a feel for that, I guess is why.
Well, I would imagine questions are gonna arise on the second project too, so why don't we just switch over to that so we can keep moving along?
Okay. All right, let me make this a little bigger. So this one's much the same. Here we're actually staying, again, this fence, I don't know why he put it so far out. But there's some of these where we're not gonna go into any of these wetland buffers at all, not the 50 or the 100. The challenge on Sawmill is there's an intermittent stream coming down right here. And that when you go to the 100 feet out, it's pretty limited. So this one we're seeing, well, can we put some panels into that 50-foot buffer, or if not, can we at least
Is that the 100, right? Not the 50?
I'm sorry, say one more time.
That's the 100 foot. You're going inside the 100, not inside the 50 there.
Right, yeah, so this is 50, this is 100, so it's like it would be in between, not going into the 50 at all on these.
Yeah, so you're good there.
Separate
That's
there,
a
Mr.
mistake.
Well,
Land.
this will be, has to be redesigned. This, again, I don't know why he had that. It looked like he had it over here, but that went off the property.
Can you go to the right, please?
Yep.
And that's all high and dry over there.
Well,
That's where the small wetland areas are located.
Yeah, this is where we were discussing, this is from our wetlands delineation, to where you have these little, they're still identified as wetlands, but when you look at the size of them, some of them are as small as 8 1,000ths of an acre, 2 100ths of an acre. Obviously, the 4/10ths of an acre is one to, we'd stay out of that one. And if you need the history on are these wetlands, I believe some of them were dug to retain some water to feed cattle. So so the cattle could have water. But they still nonetheless pop up as wetlands. And so if you, even if it's 8/1,000ths of an acre, you still have to go 100 foot around it. So these layouts, this layout here does not completely, this would actually get shrunk down quite a bit if we had to stay out of those 100-foot buffers completely too. Like a lot of this would be taken out, and then there would be like a gap here and a gap here.
I personally would like to go out and see what those wetlands are.
Mhm.
So do a site visit, you know, are they old retaining ponds for a farm, which is. Wouldn't be surprising, but I would like to see the value of those.
How many square feet is 1,000?
I have no idea. I was trying to do the math in my
I
head.
asked you, I was looking at him.
Yeah, oh, you were?
Yeah.
300 square feet.
800 square feet. 300, so 10 by 30.
Hold on, we got
Something
the
like
property
that.
owner, Bob?
Robert Baker, 28 Little Palmer Road.
Yeah.
That 30 years ago, my father, we had cattle, beef cattle, and he took that out with a bulldozer, so it's it's a little D4, like a small bulldozer, TD for a small one, and he dug it out and we fill up the water in the spring. We keep the cows up in that field for the springtime, and then when summer, late July, August got here, that pond would dry up, and then we move them across. There's another piece of property across Little Palmer Road, and the cattle would be moved down there because that would stay wet until the fall again and then bring it back up. So that area, like for instance, he's talking about right there, that's probably 15 feet by 20 feet, you know, it was just dug out and the mound of dirt is there. You can actually still see how that was done.
Right. Like you can
And
see.
they hay there, and we cut hay. It's just, when it's a wet season, we kind of stay away from there. When it's a dry season, we go out there and hay. So the hay is, it's actually a hay field there. So to give you an example, just to throw that out. And
Thank you.
that intermittent brook that's there, that's one of the same kind of thing. It probably has water in it now, but typically June, July, August, September, there's no water in it. But again, I'd be glad to go out with you guys and show.
Yeah, when you guys are ready to come back with any revisions, if you can give us a couple weeks' notice so that we can go out there before the project comes back before us and take a look at it.
Yeah, would you want our wetland scientists out there too?
It would be fantastic to have the
and we
wetland
can
scientist
be
out there.
too.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be good. I mean, we don't need to do it right now because you guys have some other stuff to do. But when it comes closer to you guys coming back and presenting, so it's,
Sounds good.
all
Yeah.
right.
Sounds great.
But I think unless anybody on the committee has any other questions or concerns about either of these.
Just real quick, going back to the first one, if you were to have your cousin's land, you could extend that one array down. And it would more than offset all the arrays that are in the wetlands. Is that not correct?
Potentially, but we don't have site control there, so we didn't want to show that at this
Right,
point.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
potentially.
you're gonna change things, that's a change, obtain the land,
Yeah.
extend, right? Diminish the array, and then you're actually got a bigger solar farm than what you're presenting
We can
here.
talk about that for the next one.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, and being that this was off property, we didn't have that included in the delineation. So
Right.
we don't know if there's any surprises waiting for us down in that parcel as well.
Okay,
Yeah, if we get permission, we could probably get that delineated and maybe look at that next time too, when you have our sidewalk.
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll do both in the same day.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, we're gonna move on because we got a ton of stuff left on our agenda.
That's on the list.
So I hope we've helped guide you a little bit.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for your time and your feedback.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's not a hearing, so we don't have to. No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So Congamon South Pond Association 5-year plan update, come on down. Has it been 5 years?
Yep.
Wow.
Time flies.
Yeah, we're trying to be proactive a little bit.
Glenn, can you unshare your screen, please?
Well, you heard me.
Thank you.
So here's a copy. There's some copies there.
Devin, you guys want to just Introduce yourself.
Davin Thomas, Forsyth Miller Road, President of South Pond Association.
Ann Griskus, 6 Street, Vice President, South Pond.
Excellent. Welcome, both of you.
So way back when we were doing our infiltrators and stuff like that we did on top of the hill, we were requested to do a 5-year plan for beach maintenance, hill maintenance and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So to this day, we've had very little erosion problems. When we get the, I'll call it the tropical
7 inches an hour.
monsoons. Yeah, we've had some little stuff, but we've been able to take care of anything like that. We've done bark mulch on the top, we've done plantings, flowers, all that kind of stuff. The only thing that we've added really to this from last time is you're here talking about the porta potties. We built the structure and stuff. I think I brought pictures and all that kind of stuff for the structure. So really the only thing in the 5-year plan is the late spring and early fall, I think, is the porta potty is added to it. Down on if you go to late spring.
Yeah.
Perform
maintenance on portalet enclosures.
Yep, and it's just that 3-sided with, we put stone dust in it, they put the porta potty on it, the guy can back up to it and services it once a week. That's really the only thing that has changed off of this. I'm gonna email it to you, except the copy that I had in my computer would not let me do anything.
Okay, I knew I didn't get anything
So,
emailed to me.
yeah,
I was like,
so-
wait.
so-
Where is
Did he
it?
ask me to email it to you?
No.
You could have mine.
No.
Did he ask
So-
Beth? No. Beth
No.
has my
Let's
email
remove
too.
the word asses and we'll.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed
So-
to say assess.
That may have been me. Nope,
So-
on it.
Pretty much that's what we're here for, is just basically updating this really for the porta potty thing and that. I do have one other request is we have a pine tree that's growing on the hill that we'd like to remove because we're trying to get the acidity of the soil down so we can get stuff to grow on that section of the hill. I talked to Randy Brown already because it's like, it's gotten to 3 inches now. Before, when we started all this, it was about 1.5 inches. I talked to Randy, he didn't have a problem with it. But because it's within the 100 feet, we have to come,
The little one up on the hill.
Oh, that one,
It's
yeah.
a big one.
yeah, right with the dark patches. We're trying to get stuff to grow there, so we've been trying to put dirt and leaves and pond stuff and anything that'll stick. So,
I think from a procedural standpoint, you would have to follow the same procedures as the applicants that preceded you earlier. Going through a request to have that taken down.
okay. So, because I've talked to Randy already and filed it with him.
Randy can only do what's called an emergency certification to have a tree taken down if it's a true emergency.
Yep.
Right?
Okay.
But if it's just,
I figured he
it's
was
a nuisance, it's
tree warden
just a
and stuff, so.
pruning, no.
Yeah. Okay.
No, he really is the tree warning when it really mostly becomes for municipal ways.
Okay,
We bring him in as a second set of eyes. It's
Yep.
ultimately conservation,
okay,
but the tree warden works as a second set of eyes for us.
okay.
So
What's
you
the
would have,
procedure?
I'll get you a packet.
Oh, man. More paper.
Sabrina will take care of you, but we're gonna need to go through the request for determination.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Yeah.
Another question for you.
Yeah.
Are we the only ones that are doing a 5-year plan for beach stuff?
No, there's other ones now.
There are,
Heights
Congamon Heights, I think our town beach does it.
okay,
and they have like, what, 6 or 7 association beaches at Congamon Heights?
yeah, where all the yellow docks are, I'm guessing.
Yellow,
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and they kind of copied this one.
You just set the precedent.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just,
I mean, you
my
can-
question was
you
gonna
can
be,
hit
if
them
we're
up
the
for
only ones doing it,
plagiarism.
you know,
So.
They put the word asses.
charge them for using it.
That's up to you. That's up to you.
all those.
Residual income from
But you guys were the not even the beta, you guys were the alpha with that, so thank you.
Yep,
You guys set the tone.
okay,
I have one other question
Sure.
for you. I noticed that and this may be a lake management thing, but the buoys, can we put a buoy out somewhere, because the boats are coming in really, really close to all the docks, to all the swim docks, and they are just creating all kinds of havoc there.
You can put in buoys up to 75 feet out,
Yeah,
but you have to pay for them
so,
through the LTP program.
okay.
And they're pretty cheap, $10 or something, $5.
Do they need a sticker? I think they need a
Yeah.
sticker.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would just be a
So
yearly.
just another sticker to go with all the
Like
other
the swim
stickers.
dock and the regular docks and that
Right.
kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Even if it's like a no wake zone or is it just like, just a single buoy that's just a marker?
So
buoy?
here's the thing. I guess the thing is, do you want it to be the town telling people not to go there? Or do you want it to be you telling people not to go there? Because if it's the town, then you probably want to go through LPP and the harbor master. If it's just a courtesy you're asking people, then you own it.
Okay,
That's what we
So-
were thinking more, just, let's try the courtesy part, see if we can keep people away.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, then we take the other avenue.
I think going with the town would give you more leverage.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Maybe, but it all.
come on down on a Sunday afternoon and sit on the beach and watch.
it's a show.
It is a show.
It's a narrow lake, man. That's the problem is it's just, it's a washout.
Yep, right.
but
All right, well, we'll
Great.
bring it up to our members and see which way they.
I have
want.
one more comment.
Sure.
Just the very last sentence on this. Did anybody take a look at that?
I did.
Can we reword that? Within, and say within the constraints of what is allowed?
I thought that,
We reserve the right to perform any other maintenance that may not be on this list. To maintain the property and keep the area safe. Or not if that includes doing things that you can't do.
Well, suppose a big tree limb fell.
Well,
Do I
then
have to
you-
come back here and say, can we remove it?
But
No.
if you do.
I mean, that was
this-
the intent.
This is carte blanche. If you do this, it says that you have permission to do anything you want.
Do me a favor. Can you reword that and just say
Now, could be
in
a sticker, but-
conjunction with reaching out
We
to
do that
the
for everybody.
conservation coordinator?
yeah, I think,
All right.
I think we got it in the beginning part too.
I believe
think
we do.
the last,
At the very
the last
beginning.
line of the beginning part.
It's a small thing, but it's,
No,
and you're
no,
not gonna do anything.
Can I just
It's just
email it
formality.
after we change it?
yeah, that's fine. You guys don't have to come back. Just, we'll take a look at it in a meeting.
Make sure you can.
Or anything. Yeah, now that it's written in a form that I can, but
Mike email it
Yeah.
to me, right?
yeah. And if you just want to get me the packet for the free thing or whatever. I gotta
Yeah,
do, so.
I'll make it up. I'll give it to you.
Alrighty.
I'll help you.
Thanks for.
Having experience though.
Right.
We're quick and easy and out of here.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Thanks.
In haste, we're moving on to proposed plan alteration to wetland monuments on 6 Silvergrass Lane, 4 Silvergrass Lane, 2 Silvergrass Lane, 4x4 with sign. Greg Hamlin, come on down. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Good. Just introduce yourself,
Yep,
Greg.
Greg Hamlin, 143 South Long Yard Road, South Lake.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. So I'm proposing, I was on a vacation and our Airbnb was up against some wetlands down south, and instead of boulders, they had a 4x4 with an actual sign. So I thought, I know there was some issues with the people, we put the boulders, but they were still mowing behind them and stuff like that. So I figured now that these 3 lots are along the actual tree line, instead of the boulders, if we could do something on a post or a 4x4, or some of the actual 50 foots right on a tree, attach the sign to a tree, and it will let them know what not to do. So I found these 2 signs online, and they come in 7x5 or 10x7, and I was asking if we could get rid of the boulders and do something like that.
So I think the signs, this one in particular,
Okay.
right, is pretty explicit about what you can and can't do. My only problem with the signs is they're easy to remove.
Right.
And if I'm a property owner, as soon as you're gone, I might be taking those down. If there's boulders, it makes it a bit more difficult for them, a typical homeowner, to pick up and move those. You're proposing removing the boulders too?
I haven't put the boulders yet. So we haven't done the boulders yet. So instead of the boulders, putting a 4x4 in the ground where feasible. Like these are on the back, like right on the back of people's property. The other ones where we did the boulders were out in
I know
open
exactly
area,
what
you know what I
you're
mean? So I'm figuring this would be a little less of an eyesore than the boulder. It would let them know, I mean, you could cut a tree down that's in the 50 or move a boulder. You know, you gotta bring equipment in to do either one. So, you know, this is letting them know, no dumping, no this, no that beyond the boulder, where the boulder's just a boulder there. And they could go dump, they could go in and say, oh, I didn't know that I couldn't dump into the wetlands.
What is the order conditions specify boulder?
It's the normal
On
order
your,
of conditions that you guys
The
do.
notes, I've got the verbiage for each one. There's one of them that does,
Boulders.
one of them says planting.
No, we have one planting that, I always forget her name. She
Where
wanted
is
a,
it?
yep, she wanted one plant in a certain area there. So when we came out to look, I was gonna ask you what plant and where she wanted it.
Oh, I remember that
That
one.
monuments in the form of planting shall be placed to enhance the 50-foot buffer zone, not
Yeah, that
before
was
6
the
over
rest.
grass.
Yeah. And then where she wanted the plantings actually in the woods.
Yeah, so throw it out to everybody at the table. I mean, right now it says boulders. He's proposing signs. Pros, cons, thoughts.
I see the advantages to both. I think I prefer the boulders because I can readily assure that they're not getting moved around by the homeowner. A 4x4, I can dig a hole and move it back. Thinking for the eyesore, I mean, I'm thinking like birthday party in the back, you take a picture, there's the sign. As compared to there's a boulder in the woods. I'm thinking the signs might be more eyesore long-term than a boulder that's gonna kind of mix in with the vegetation. I like that they tell you what to do, what not to do. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but I think I would prefer the boulder overall.
Tend to agree.
Okay. My last question is, so birthday party, big boulder out there,
Right.
kid climbs on it, falls off. Who's responsible for it?
Well, it's,
I'm just asking, putting it out there.
so I,
We're in a different world now.
I have a boulder in my front yard.
Yeah.
If my kid falls off it,
Yeah.
that's on the kid.
I know,
you
and I
And on
agree,
me.
I agree, but did you put the boulder there? Or was the boulder naturally there?
Oh,
I'm just,
I
I'm
yeah, I
thinking, I'm
asked for the
thinking
boulder
outside,
to
I
be
mean,
there.
it's a different world now. I mean,
Yeah, I
I
put the
have to
boulder.
ask these
Yeah.
questions, and it's on,
Kid falls on the sign and pokes his eye.
right,
out.
I get it, I get it. I'm just putting it out there.
Okay.
Touches the sign, cuts his finger.
Right.
So I chimed in, sorry, I chimed in when you were like in the middle of your conversation, I was doing something else, sorry. So you want the sign upright or the sign to be on a piece of wood down on the ground?
I want the
flush?
sign, we can do the sign
Upright, yeah.
upright like this.
Right.
When I seen them, they were upright. I mean, it clearly marked what was behind this
Oh.
mark.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a good idea, and I thought it was better than the boulder.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it, like, it explicitly says like why it's there and everything, and I get that, I like that.
Yeah, it's a good point too.
And we had trees, people did trees, like small trees.
Arborvitae's.
And no, they did like fruit, like not fruit trees, but like flowering trees on another lot. You know, so now I have boulders out in the thing, then we have trees. I mean, I could see the boulders if it was in a cleared area, but up against the wood line, I just don't, I think this would be better
For these lots.
for these lots, these 3 lots. And again, they're right on the backs of the like the houses are close. They're right there.
I guess what's the long-term maintenance plan? The boulder's got like a 1,000,000-year lifespan.
Right, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's more to tell the people, you know, because like I said, they were mowing behind it, they were dumping behind it. This is to say, hey, nothing beyond this one.
Yeah.
I think it's a little more informative to the people. And I liked what I saw down on vacation. I thought it would be better than just a boulder that did nothing. Not
Yeah,
did nothing,
I've seen
but
them too. I've seen them
Yeah.
on golf courses. I've seen them in different places. I kind of like it too. I am torn. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm almost inclined to say, how about both? You know, boulders and a sign instead of, you know, a sign on the 20, all the
Look at
20s.
somebody that's sonotubes with concrete. Circular, 12
was
foot
it?
off the
That
ground.
was Noble Speed, right?
Then you could argue that somebody could trip over. it,
Yeah.
whatever, I guess, but, yeah.
And then so like I have a couple that are like right next to a tree. I don't know, I'm like,
They just don't like the way it looks.
and the people are complaining, like
Yeah.
our customers were complaining about the boulders. They don't like the way it looks. I'm just trying to kind of
Yeah.
walk the middle line between you guys, my customers,
I
and
get it.
liability and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So I'm kind of all over on this one.
With that in mind, like we asked Mr. Levesque to mark the corners. You know, is there a happy medium here where those signs can be somewhat like in the middle division area and where the corners are marked with a more,
On some, yes, but on others, the corner is an actual tree.
So
so then you.
I would attack-
A sign.
Put the sign up against the tree
Right,
and then, you know,
just so there's like some long-term determination of like, oh, there should have been 3 signs between me and Norm.
just to give
There's
you
short
guys some,
lines, yeah.
on the committee, some historical perspective, right?
Yeah.
We've always required monuments. The reason boulders is here is that's what we agreed to
Right.
with you. But we've done shrubs, bird houses. So we've always required monuments. We don't always require
Right.
boulders. So don't think that that is what we do. That's been negotiated
Right.
with the contractors, okay? So let's not get
Right.
stuck on the boulders. If you want the boulders, fine, we'll stay with the boulders. I just don't want you to think that's the precedent we've always had. Okay.
I think it was a great idea for the open space. But now that we're up against the wood line, I think something else, and I'm open to, if you don't like the sign on a 4x4. I could do something, I could put it on something else. That's what I saw. I saw a 4x4 with the sign on it. And so that's what I came to.
Are all the properties against the wood line?
All 3 of the ones that we're going with,
That's all 3 of yours. Now,
all 3, yep.
in the whole development, like if you set a precedent for this, let's say we accept the signs, well, the next guy with open land in back of it, well, he wants signs too.
So in this development, I think we have 2 more lots that I would need NOI off the top of my head, and they're both up against the wood, it would be a wood line.
Yeah,
There's no more open space, and it was the fairway, the open space was in the fairway, so we actually didn't clear the trees, it was just in the middle of the open area. These are the 2 that I found.
I guess one thing that I would say is, so this, I think I brought this up like maybe a couple years ago. I was like, why do we have to go through every lot as an NOI? Why can't the whole project? Well, I guess if we don't have to just do boulders, it really would be up to the builder or homeowner what they want to ask us to, if we're okay with. Cause we have to look at it every lot by lot. So we don't have to, like, they don't have to have every single lot one standard, because we're
No, they
looking at
don't.
every building lot individually now anyways, so.
It's
Really,
absolutely
it's up
true.
to them and what they want to propose to us and what we're gonna say. So I mean, really, if they want it, we don't, I'm saying we don't have to standardize every single lot at, you know, every subdivision that's in town, because we're not looking at every.
These houses are already built
They're already built,
and occupied,
and they're occupied.
so you're here on behalf of the residents.
I'm here, I still hold the NOI, so I'm here on behalf of myself. The contractor.
I guess in light of the history lesson, that a monument's a monument, it's all about monuments, and it's kind of up to them what they prefer.
Kind of now changing my mind a little, I kind of agree.
I think the sign with the more words on it.
Hmm.
Norm and I were talking about, it doesn't, like, a filling might be changed to dumping, because that would include dirt and leaves.
Yep.
And then something about wheeled vehicles, bicycles included, because you don't want someone building a BMX track out there.
So I found
Just
this on
as
like
much
a
as an
standard,
ATV.
it was like a wetland
Right.
where you could buy wetland signs, so that's where I
Do
found
we have any
this.
more of our tags left at all?
I have no idea.
So they got a
Conservation.
sign with the more words on it.
Yeah, but it has
Just needs to be a
conservation.
little more inclusive, drag in.
Do you think less is, and the reason why I printed the second one, do you think this less is more? It almost, the second one's almost like no, nothing. It's almost, it says more with less words.
Wetland area,
I
no
mean, it's
discharge,
really part of
dumping,
an easement.
clearing.
Is it?
Then they get tax, use our tax and tax the whole
A
thing.
discharge is kind of like.
No,
That-
I don't think
It's
it's,
open
I thought
space
maybe
that's
like blowing your
deeded to
grass or
the-
blowing your leaves in, you know what I mean?
Discharge to me
So
seems
it's
like
still
liquid.
their problem.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Can't
oh,
touch
you're
your
talking
pool
about
back
the
here.
open
Yeah.
space.
Where you put a
Oh,
gallon
I
drum
thought you meant like
motor
the
oil.
buffer zone. Like, I don't think that's
Put
a.
that
I
somewhere
mean,
else.
you're talking about a case by case basis, and I
I
think
like
this
that one.
is,
Okay.
yeah, this is.
I mean, these are, like I said, I can't change these. If you want them changed, I'd have to get customized signs. But this is something when I type in conservation signs, this came up as like
Yeah.
a standard practice, so. That's why I
So-
put them
Now, who maintains them, like Andy mentioned? I
in.
mean,
So they're plastic, so
do we,
they,
do
I
we
mean,
do anything about checking them in 10 years, or
No, I mean, that's kind of on us too.
it is, right?
Is it just woods or is it wetlands or what? Is it
it's on the 50-foot wetlands
I think
buffer,
that's why we. let
but it's up
lots.
at like we're up against the
Put
wood
'em there
line
and
of
they
it.
Never go anywhere.
But,
Well, let's make a decision,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, you can mix and match. It doesn't have to be like you said, standard. If, you know, maybe that's probably a headache, but you could say, boulders are signed. Gotta go sign, slap a sign, because, yeah, stones are.
Well, I think we're talking about specific cases right
Yeah,
now.
I don't know,
Right.
you know what I mean, like,
Yeah, so we've got three orders of conditions. The DP numbers are
right,
on the agenda, so. I would need to know what you guys choose for each one.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we allow the applicant to change from boulders to signs for DEP number 2920407, DEP number 2920397, and DEP number 2920404.
I'll second that.
Okay,
but it shouldn't say conservation in the wording.
Do you want them to like make up the signs and bring them here? Steve?
well, it is a conservation easement.
Yeah, but that ties it to us. We have
Like,
no
we would
part
be
of it, other than asking him to put a boundary on it. You
I,
just say wetland boundary. Wetland boundary is fine. The minute you put conservation, there people are gonna be knocking on our door.
then we're asking them to make custom signs.
But we're not giving them our signs.
No, he said he can buy these off the shelf. These are already readily available.
They're already made and available.
Yes.
Can I see them again?
Sure. Yeah, you can, I went on the website and
Yeah,
And it's.
Go with that one.
Not metal.
not that one. Because this says wetland conservation easement.
Mm.
This says just wetland
They
area.
don't do it.
That's
This
fine
is
by
your
me.
sign. If it's okay with everybody.
you guys tell me.
You wanna vote on the
Well,
sign?
technically, all he needs is the 4x4 pole. Putting the sign on it is,
Yeah, but we're going
Agree
back
on
to the
that.
beginning when you say that.
Yeah.
So now we agreed on
so
the
that,
sign.
so that is preferable on the 4x4 pole, which you're putting up as a monument.
Or
But he's
like,
saying you can tack them on a tree too.
if, yeah, because where the property line's on the tree, I'm gonna
lines,
tack
you
it
can
on
put
the
them
tree.
Trees.
So.
How far apart?
All
I-
right, a
it's-
motion was made. We're gonna move forward.
I seconded it.
All right,
Andy,
Aye.
and he's using this one.
Aye.
Wetland area sign.
aye?
But he's using this one.
Yes,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Greg.
Nice seeing you again.
Well, thanks for coming in and letting us know and not just doing it. I appreciate
I
it.
learned my lesson.
Yeah, good. All right. We have Eve Crampton, 56 Berkshire Ave, has been nominated to be the erosion control monitor for DEP 2920377.
Mhm.
Tell me about it.
So this is a kind of older project that is just getting started now. I did a pre-construction site visit, and July 21st. The erosion controls are up, DEP signs up. This is that red house. It's a house kind of along the shoreline, and there's a garage or whatnot in back. So kind of from the lake, it looks like two separate houses. It really is just one. So Eve is the owner and she has agreed to be the erosion control monitor. And I think you guys just need to,
I will take a motion to accept Eve as the erosion control monitor.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Norm was first. Andy started talking second, so Andy seconded. Dave, aye. Jerry,
Aye.
Mamet,
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Thank you. North Pond Conservation update, we're gonna move that down. We're not gonna talk about that right this second. Let's go through old business, request for certificate of compliance. 7 and 9 Lakeview Street, 90 Point Grove Road. Who do we have for the applicant? Didn't want you falling asleep over there, Rob.
Never.
There.
So, good evening again. For the record, Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates. I'm here. We've submitted a request for certificate of compliance for the two houses on Lakeview Street. These were filed as notice of intent due to the existence of what we'll call bordering land subject to flooding, or the 100-year floodplain, as well as being within the bank, or I'm sorry, adjacent to the bank resource area. The 50-foot buffer is here. 100-foot buffer is here. This is North Pond itself. Brass rail is here, house number 7, and I guess it's number 9. So there was a couple changes to the plans for house number 7. Driveway originally kind of came in this way, like straight on. And they reconfigured it, so it's a little bit farther to the, let's call that the west, and a little bit closer to the brass rail. There was, as part of our filing, a compensatory storage area. I know you guys in Southwick don't deal with it quite as much, but if you think of the floodplain like a bathtub, anything you displace, for example, put a house into the bathtub, displaces the floodwaters, or the bathroom, I'm sorry, the bathtub surface. So that theoretical 100-year flood elevation is mapped for Congamon. And that theoretical flood surface elevation in the event of placing something in the floodplain would displace floodwaters, but theoretically raising that flood elevation. So they don't want, DEP doesn't want you to do that. So they want you to compensate. The way we compensate is either through the removal of existing structures, taking credit for existing structures, for example, the pavilion that was there, and also excavating material that has to be excavated at the same incremental elevation within the same reach of it says river, but in this case, it's in the same reach of Congamon, so somewhere along the banks of Congamon. So it was done here, so our compensatory storage area was here. That said, that was originally, there were some changes made. We had to go through an amendment. The 100-year floodplain, we had them excavate a little bit more than we originally proposed over here to compensate for that. So now we have all the calculations and information. We've requested, again, the certificate of compliance based on the adjustments that have been made and the adjustments to the compensatory storage that were needed to make sure that we were compliant. So we believe we're compliant. We're here tonight to request the CFC. There is some questions. I think you may have been privy to them or not, but we did receive some information from the leasee of the brass rail. And they had questions related to what was happening. It's more of a lease issue, legal lease issue, than it is a conservation related issue. I believe Stanley is on
Zoom. Attorney Stanley Comac for Martino Di Benetta. I'm here on Zoom if I have to make any comment.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, you're here
Stanley
for,
Comac.
you're here for who?
Martino Di Benedetto is the owner of lot 7, the one that Rob is talking about.
Okay.
And also the owner under a separate entity of the brass rail.
So a couple of things. One, I guess I'm going to be right up front. You're asking for a certificate of compliance for a set of plans that you're not presenting to us. Right? So you came before us.
Correct.
And you presented a set of plans. And we went ahead and we approved those plans.
Correct.
Those plans are not these plans. These plans are dated. Right, we didn't approve the as-built plan, so you changed the plan since we approved it.
No, so there was changes during the construction process that we've documented. So what you have before you, so we didn't propose any changes to the plans other than the when they built what they built and they came to us to submit a request for certificate of compliance,
Mhm.
we then put an as-built together. An as-built plan shows what was built, and then we listed the deficiencies to the owner, explained to them what they needed to do to get in compliance with compensatory storage. So the plan you have before you is an as-built plan that, yes, you're correct, is different than the original plan that was proposed. That's correct.
Mhm.
So as part of the submission of the certificate of compliance, we've submitted that with what's different, and arguably compliant with the regulations, but different than the plan that was approved by you under the order, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
So that is why this one is 2 months old versus when they came before us.
Correct. I don't know when the original order was, but it might even have been extended. I think the original order was quite a while ago.
2020. I think 2020 is when the order of conditions was written out for this one.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah, before COVID thing, right?
Oh, wow.
BC.
BC, before COVID.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, my goodness.
I was here.
Yeah.
I want to say October, but I could be wrong of 2020.
So is that indicating the shed that's down on the waterfront?
I don't, the
Shed for the water pump.
I don't see it on this plan, but I don't know when that was this was June 16th of 2023. Where's the shed?
Let me just, no, when do we go?
Here's the waterfront here.
17th. There we
It's
go.
right down in there, yeah.
We got pictures,
That's for the irrigation system.
pictures. And this, yeah, let me just zoom in on this and
Oh, that.
just share.
Do you know if that's added to the calculation?
I don't see it on the plan, so I'm guessing that it's not. Is that new? Like,
It was there when we did our site visit. Norm, do you remember what?
It was there then.
It was there then.
let me see when it's.
We did our site visit. It must have been beginning of July.
Of what, July this year?
This year,
Mhm.
yeah, sorry, this year. And yeah, so granted, this was beginning of July.
Yeah, our survey was in June, and it's not specific as to the date. I could find out, but
Okay.
it's not shown on our plan. I don't know how new it is. I couldn't tell you.
There's that.
It looks new, shiny.
Yeah. I'm not, so this is what the state was when we did our site visit. Do you know if that's been grown in yet? And
I
think the
personally
applicant-
haven't been there
Okay.
since, so.
That's the side of the brass rail, right?
Yeah, this is the
Yeah,
back
yeah.
part of the brass rail
Mhm.
right here.
Would you know when that was?
Let me see,
You said early July?
yeah,
Yeah, it was.
okay, yeah, July 5th is when I uploaded it, so it must have been, if not July 5th, the day before.
We've gotten a lot of rain and the weather's been good, so I would expect it started to vegetate, but I've not seen it since. I've tried to be away as much as possible.
Okay. The riprap is new, it wasn't on the original plan,
That's
is what I was told.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be all grassy hill in the original plan?
Yeah.
I
I
think it was
think-
just a slope. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why
Because
they.
they had to take out more land, the slope was steeper.
So
Didn't they change the slope from? the
Yeah,
pitch?
I think the original slope was probably proposed as a 3-to-1. Typically, that's what we would propose. You know, it appears to be 3-to.
Oh, I gotta zoom.
Yeah, a lot of riprap.
Mhm.
It's a lot of riprap.
There's no prohibitions on riprap and bordering land subject to flooding or any, it is still technically pervious. But you know, so I don't know if it's the sexiest thing in the world, but
It's definitely not sexy.
yeah, no. No, I agree.
Even if rep is not sexy.
Um,
So the other thing is, there is or was a lawsuit going on between the two parties?
Correct. Well, I don't know if there's actually, let me let Stanley speak to that if it's okay.
Dear members, first of all, it's April 6th of 2020 was the order of conditions. I just looked at that. Number two, was sent a letter on June 28th, just a letter. And I responded to that yesterday, and it's up to the attorney for Brass Rail to determine what he wants to do for his client from that point and on. I expected him tonight. He told me he was coming before, but I guess after he got my letter, he decided not to come. As stated by the engineer, these are purely contract issues with regards to the lease, and should have no bearing on what we're talking about, but no lawsuit has been filed.
Could that decision or conversation have any bearing on the construction that was completed? And could it force the property owner to change the current configuration of the construction?
It gets back to an interpretation of the lease provisions and whether there was any change and to what extent it was. So I guess anything's possible, but they are looking at that we trespassed and breach of the lease agreement. So on the first instance, I don't see where it comes into play, and it's purely a contract action for damages.
And just to clarify for the commission, if I can through the chair.
Sure, please.
I believe the original notice of intent actually included work on the leased property, leased premises. There's been some adjustments, but it's not drastically different than, there was already grading work in compensatory storage area proposed on the original notice. So as the attorney had mentioned, that's a separate matter. It's a good question from the chair. I actually asked the same question, to be totally honest, this afternoon when we spoke. If you give a certificate of compliance, is there for some reason something that would undo or allow the leasee to undo the compensatory storage area, or something that would affect their compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act? I would argue that should that need to be, if there was a decision and that needed to be resolved, in order to resolve it, it would require the filing of a notice of intent, because anytime we have to balance, right, with what we're taking and what we're giving back. So we've given back what we've taken. So let's just say a lawsuit was won in the courts by the leasee, and they said, oh, we want to fill that whole area. They can't just do that. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, they would be in violation of the Wetlands Protection Act. This is an area that then becomes bordering land subject to flooding and is subject to the provisions of the same compensatory storage regulations that I was speaking of earlier. So I know it's a little bit of a sticky wicket and a little bit complicated, but I do believe it's two separate issues from a compliance.
Well, it is and it isn't. I guess here's my concern is going back to, we were presented plans, we approved the plans have changed, which may have caused a lawsuit by us saying it's okay that those plans were changed, and now we're gonna give you a certificate of compliance. Does that weigh in one way or another on that lawsuit? And honestly, and this is my opinion because there's 6 of us here.
Yeah.
But my thing is, I just rather wait and see this thing flushed out before we provided a certificate of compliance. And the only thing that they get right now is, if we offer that up, is their bond back.
I had the same conversation with the attorney this afternoon. Sonny, we think alike, I guess. So I've seen orders of conditions that have been issued and certificates of compliance that haven't been issued for decades. So I think to your point, they would like to get their bond back. But maybe there's, and Stanley, can you speak to how quickly you think this would be resolved, or what, does it make sense to punt it temporarily, or does it make sense to withdraw or something? I know that
There's two parts to the importance of the compliance to my client. Number one, the property's in a flood zone, it would come off of that, you wouldn't have to pay for flood insurance and the release of the $10,000. So that's from that point of view. In any conversations or in any letters I've been given, it's about, they are talking about damages they want. They're not talking about do this or do that. In any event, even if you issued the certificate of compliance, I would think they have the right to appeal your decision. So that if that was what they were going to do, they have a remedy. It's not like they don't have a remedy, even if they didn't file a lawsuit. I don't know if they will file a lawsuit, but there were two leases, the original lease in 19 and another one in 20. And the lease in 19 specifically stated that the landlord would be doing further landscaping. They've been well aware of this situation for the last 3 years. So I don't think they'd have great success, but on the other hand, they're looking for monetary damage. So that's why that's for those reasons, specifically that my client went to have flood insurance. And who knows, as you know, even if they did file a lawsuit, who knows with court timing when that may be resolved going into the future. So because of the flood zone and the $10,000, my client would like to get the certificate of compliance, so he doesn't have those two costs to pay anymore.
And at the risk of complicating the issue, I do believe that the property itself, the house, can be taken out of the floodplain outside of the conservation realm. When I say that, the house itself exists above base flood elevation. So we excavated here, we filled here. So Stanley, I think a letter of map amendment could be applied for with FEMA outside of the conservation realm. And then, you know, as far as the bond goes, the bond is what the bond is, right? So that's an issue, but the LOMA could be issued by FEMA to determine that this house is not within the floodplain and would not require flood insurance. It takes 30 to 45 days. That could be done outside of this realm, you know, just so that, because I know it's a subtlety that.
Yeah, I mean, again, and anybody else that's at the table, pipe up. I just don't feel right now we want to insinuate ourselves into something that's my opinion.
That's in litigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I understand their concerns and what they're looking for. I get it, but I would again ask that we continue this for, if not the next meeting, because he said he hadn't heard back from the other attorney yet. So maybe it's a timing thing, like you said, Rob, you're looking to be away from your desk as much as possible. But I'd like to see if, I would like to see if there's any communications before I would feel comfortable voting on it. And I would probably not vote to give it today until I got more information. So instead of saying no, you know, I would prefer a continuance, but.
Well, it will also allow us to double check if the grass is seeded on the hill. I think that's important.
Could I suggest something that might help the applicant? Do you know if they posted a cash bond or just put cash in place? Because a bond could be granted, you know, so a $10,000 bond is, you know, when you're not a construction company, it can be a pain in the butt to get, right?
Right.
But you could probably get it. I think somebody mentioned that you can get a $10,000 bond for a couple hundred for a couple $100.
Yeah, you get it through your insurance company.
Yeah, so which could be put in place for a couple $100. Ideally, they get their 10,000 back. I don't, you know, obviously the insurance would be in place with the town. That would allow them to get that back. We can file for a LOMA, which is independent of this anyway. Even if we did get tonight, we'd still have to apply for a LOMA for them to get out of flood insurance. And then we can ideally, you know, find out where we're at. If we could maybe, Stanley, if we were to continue for to a date certain, we could at least let the commission know next time if we have it resolved or we don't. And then if we need to punt longer, I guess we could do that as well.
And I think we're scheduled to meet August 21st.
Gene told me that if anyone wants to continue, we should fill that out. I do what Gene tells me to do.
I don't blame you.
If you don't mind, what two things. Number one, continue it for a little longer that day, maybe in mid-September or when you're in that, because even if their side or Attorney Fenton doesn't do anything, we're gonna do something to the extent that we may evict them. So this one way or another is gonna get resolved quickly. So I will be able to tell you that at our next meeting in September, that we can do that, whether I've given them notice and that was pointed out in my letter to them. So whether I hear from them or not, if I don't hear from them, we're definitely moving forward. If I hear from them but don't like what I'm hearing, then I will be going forward. So I
Can
think
we
if
propose
I'm not.
Can we propose September 18th then?
Yeah, that's much better, I think. That'll
Okay.
give us, that'll, one way or another, either they'll file something, they file something, we're still gonna do what we're gonna do. But I would suggest that, is it okay with Rob's suggestion that we can substitute a bond for cash?
I mean, it's allowed. So we just have to we have to get it on our end, get it in place, and then ideally request the cash back.
That would be all clerk.
Yes, yeah, we can,
Okay.
yeah, Stanley, I can work that out with you.
Okay. That's
All
fine.
right.
I think the bigger stall point here is he's putting a plan in front of us, which is the plan the board didn't accept.
18th.
That's.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's actually
2023.
stopping it more than anything. This plan isn't the plan that was approved.
Right, so I can,
Because there's other stuff going on over there.
But I think that's not out of the normal for them to submit an as-built plan, not what was originally accepted, because things do change, and that's why, that's the purpose of the as-built plan. The problem is the changes are with issues with attorneys now and that, but it's not, the
There-
plan itself isn't an issue.
There is, you're right. Part of it though is we're seeing a rash of plans come in that are dramatically different than what we're.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like, it's not out of the normal
No.
to get something that is different than that's the purpose of an as-built, as it would, like, how it was built, like.
Right. But when you change lines of walls and you push back flood zones, that should have come back in and been discussed instead of drawn and asked, oh, look, we complied with the different.
I never saw the original plan, but I mean,
Yes.
is it just the slope changed, like it got steeper, or
Yeah,
how much bigger is it? I mean, they driveway moved a little
it
bit, how
it
much?
got pushed this way. I believe it was in here.
Steeper.
Yeah, it's closer to the deck back here.
Right.
And to be honest with you, Philippe in my office has been managing this directly. They work out at the same gym, so they've been communicating directly. But so good questions and comments is logical, understand completely. Happy to go through what has changed, why it changed. Talk to the owner about how and why it changed. Sounds like we gotta look at the shed,
Shed.
and see what's going on there.
Well, that's
The
gonna
driveway.
So we can, right, so we can update what's going on there. Make sure we're up to speed. Does it make sense to try to do a site visit? Do you want me to see where it ends up before we schedule a site visit? Before the 18th? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, let's,
I don't wanna waste anybody's time if we're not gonna be here on the 18th, like, I guess.
right, like we talked to the solar guys, closer to the actual next meeting makes
Okay.
more sense than right now,
So we can communicate through your officer.
please.
So we're respectfully requesting a continuance to, I guess, 9/18/23.
Got it.
All right. I'll make a motion to provide them with a continuance. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mamet? Good one. Kevin? Jerry? Aye.
Aye.
Norman, Andy, aye. Okay, perfect.
We'll get in touch with you before then.
Thank you.
Stan.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Can you do me a favor? I like to use the restroom. Can you walk them through? They're not here. The next thing, so the wetland violation for 31.
Yeah, there's no update.
Okay.
Jerry.
Jerry, is there any?
Okay, I have to do some. No update on Sam West.
No update on Sam West. Oh, let's just, oops, I'm not gonna,
Come on.
let's mute him.
little along shoreline, but I got that one. Is it good? I can update you.
Before you-
Yeah. Are they done with this
There
structure?
you go.
Yeah. We're ready for that one? Want to do the porta potty?
Yes,
So the porta potty, at, 81 Point Grove, I had been in contact with Mr. Grillo. And he quite nicely did something about the potential of tipping the porta potty over. I went out there a couple days ago and he has, it's chained off with a big weight. So that it can't really be pushed over. So
All right.
he did comply and, it was very nice of him.
Cool.
So that's all,
That's done.
that's all done.
Next, 12 Hillside Road.
12 Hillside Road. Okay, so in your folders, you have the MDR report that Sue Braska got.
So I read an email that we got like last week about this and no, what I just looked at quickly here seemed like a conflict with the report. I read, the way it read to me is that by straightening it, it would not help the brook because it's gonna allow potential for more erosion, you know, too much water downstream.
Mhm.
But then here it's saying that she's saying that how it would help straightening it. Ooh,
So that, I think what you're talking about is her statement to the Conservation Commission tonight because she is not able to attend.
yeah,
So,
but it says help water flow, yes, but
Yeah.
they're saying helping water flow could potentially not be good in that, in the thing that we got, because it's flushing too much water
Mhm.
downstream too quickly,
right,
right?
yep. I mean, this is her statement, it's her opinion.
Oh, okay, all right,
Um,
this isn't what.
The
No,
woman
this is
from
not-
MDR?
This is
Not-
her,
not-
yeah,
But who supplied that brief,
the MDR report,
no, whatever we got in the email last week, I don't know what it was, that was, it was like, I don't know, whole thing on Brook Mate.
that was me, that was me giving
oh,
you
that
guys
was-
information.
That was you that supplied.
And it was
I-
like Missouri Conservation.
Missouri-
whatnot.
Missouri,
Yep, yeah, so that was
You
just,
got, oh, I thought
that
that
was
was,
me.
what she supplied us with.
This is it?
Yeah.
that's what I sent you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
I
this
was
is
like,
really
just
well-
That's what I'm
FYI,
saying.
This has to do with the
This-
lady that wants to.
to straighten it, so
Hmm,
straightening a stream is not exactly a good idea.
Right,
And
correct.
so I just wanted you guys to read that and just
Yeah,
have,
all
you
right,
know, that
okay,
sort of
all right.
in the
right.
back of your mind.
So that makes sense then,
Yeah.
but that isn't what we got from Sue.
No.
That, you got that.
I gave that to you
Gotcha,
guys,
okay.
and
So
then
it
this
conflicts.
is Sue's comment. Do we want to read Sue's comment? into
We're
the
gonna do
meeting?
this right now. We're gonna move and we're gonna do
Oh.
Doreen, so Doreen can go home. How's that?
Sorry.
And then we can go back around
Okay.
and, talk about all the other stuff. So,
During our Tuesday, Highway.
excellent. Good to see you again.
That was 230 College Highway? Okay.
So we went on a site visit and we hiked the property, that Doreen
Twice.
and, yeah, well, you did.
You did, guys.
Yeah.
It was like 45 minutes waiting for
Yeah,
this
I-
guy.
but that's take breaks for the older ones.
The helicopter was out
That's
there
what-
looking
that's
for you.
what made it late.
It was a hot day too.
Yeah, she said.
Yeah, we had other site visits to do.
I was like,
Wow, how were the ticks?
huh?
How were the ticks?
None.
All right.
We had,
No.
they had none.
Dave got them.
I caught them all.
You got
Dave had
it.
them.
You
Yeah,
took
there's
them
no
all,
way you
yeah.
sucked
I had
them up.
My
so
turn to go to
many.
the bathroom,
Yeah.
sorry, so sorry.
I had so many of them.
Yeah, the dogs had none, I had none.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were in boots.
So we hiked through where they ride to see what they could do about taking limbs and trees off of the trails, and there weren't as many as I expected. It doesn't look like there's a ton of maintenance that really needs to be done. There were certainly questions as to the boundaries of when they were on conservation property as opposed to non-conservation property, because there was an abundance of both. So, you know, we can only grant you permission to do what you're asking on conservation. As far as the neighbors go, you know, you could either ask them or
Okay.
take your chances, right? We can't
Yeah,
legislate what goes
yeah,
on their
yeah,
property. I mean, the other folks that were there, do you see any reason with allowing them to do what she's asking to do?
Yeah, you have them at the
For no
trail,
reason.
good thing. Having the
Okay,
horses in
Wait,
there.
it seemed like they're considering.
I'm sorry.
Having you in there is just eyes on the property.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right, though, I agree. Fundamentally, we can only get permission. to
Yeah, and I know, that. I
borrow it.
understand that, yeah. I
Otherwise, it
understand.
seems like pretty much people are doing whatever they want.
I
Yeah,
know,
yeah, agree.
That's,
Yeah.
that's.
Agreed.
the-
There's
And
like
it is
tree
nice
stands and
to have
this,
eyes
that.
on the property, like Andy
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
So I would, my recommendation or my suggestion would be allowing you to go ahead and doing the maintenance that you want, but also to be our eyes and ears out there. If you see something, can you please let us know?
I can
Because there's
absolutely
something
do
we
that.
Should,
I
should
can
address.
absolutely, I would actually be honored to do that, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a tough property to get to.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. No, I would absolutely be honored to do that.
Okay, so I'd
And
like
I
to
do
make,
understand that if we don't know whose property it is, we would need to get their permission. That's understandable.
okay. So I guess I'm gonna make a motion to allow Doreen Guard and her compatriots to
Et
ride
cetera.
on the Concom property up on Coes Hill.
Yeah.
And
Thank
to
you.
act as a steward on behalf of conservation.
I would love to.
Okay,
Great.
and we can.
I learned
formalize
a
that.
lot being around here. I'm tired today. I haven't eaten supper
Yeah,
and I'm
no.
tired, so
No, I get it. I
but I
get it.
learned a lot being around here, so
Okay,
I thank you for your time.
so we're gonna get a formal vote. So I made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Jerry seconds. I made a motion. Jerry seconded it. Matt,
Aye,
Kevin,
Aye.
and I.
we're gonna let her ride on the property and she's gonna be a property steward for us.
Yes.
Shut that out.
That would be cool.
Okay, so anything,
in writing so that there's something official in case they get.
Yeah, you know what?
In case
Because,
somebody stops them
You
and
need a
says, hey,
badge?
what are you doing?
well, honestly, we did get yelled at by somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jerry
You're acting
seconded
on behalf.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's recorded.
it. Yeah.
This is,
We need to give her permission to.
official letter.
Flags.
Trees down, the cavalry trees that are down.
Oh, I thought that's what I just did. Yes, you can take the trees down. That
Yeah,
was all
yeah.
part of
Well,
it.
it's
Trees that are
matter,
already down.
yeah, right, we're not.
Not take trees down,
No, we're not gonna
Right.
take trees down.
remove trees that are blocking the trail.
That's
Yeah.
The one
yeah,
at the
yeah.
very beginning is almost down. It's not-
Just look at it.
The one that you guys first encountered is, it's so close. It's just not going down. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
And I will actually-
Thank you, thank you. Long meeting.
I thank you. I will definitely be a steward for you guys.
Did you do? You Crampton Berkshire, Ave. You did that, you did that.
There's nothing for that there. If you want continuation, nothing from that. They haven't given me any update.
Jerry has something on a,
I did the porta potty.
Porta potties A-okay.
Did the porta potty, that's done.
Okay.
I'm tied down with a chain on a rock.
That's it.
it's a continuation. They're not here. Report on the porta potty.
That's cool.
The
The
APR.
So
I had one item.
we're not there yet.
Oh, we're not.
We're not there yet. Let's get through the agenda.
Hillside,
Cool.
Club Hillside.
Yeah.
The MDR report. She can't make it tonight. She has a statement.
Does she want us to vote on it? I see her statement.
I mean, we can probably wait until I don't know what she wants.
Ooh.
Sue,
Oh.
I think, well, she was asking essentially like we left off wanting to know if MDR considered it an exemption, and it looks like from the report is that they're saying that Sue wants it done. And that she should contact the Conservation Commission.
Yes.
So,
If you read, the ditch is currently curvy and meandering. Although landowners have a sickle bar mower to cut the edges, regularly keep culverts and flow paths clear, they would like it straightened out. It could be hazardous to tenant who cannot see the ditch well when mowing hay. I suggest she consult with her Conservation Commission for determination of applicability to determine if this type of work would be considered an exemption. So Ms. Braska commented on how her operation is a fishbowl and bypassers regularly watch the report on the normal goings on, what have you. I think what I read was if they're not actively using it for agricultural purposes, then the water is not exempt. And from what all I can see is it flows through the property. They're not feeding or watering animals. They're not pulling water out of it for agricultural purposes or what have you. So I'm against just straightening it out. I don't see the benefit other than it just makes it safer for her to mow. Which, you know,
Well, she
is
was saying that
unfortunate.
there was when the water reaches a high water table, that the pipes and such that whatever they have on that road, they have a road there that crosses it, gets overwhelmed and it leaks out left and right. I mean, if you see it on a rainstorm, you'll see it at the field on that, in that gully, and the dip is all wide and it's, looks like a river. But, and also gone like in a day or two.
So,
That throttles it back though, because how fast would it be?
right, so
downstream?
I don't
Well, yeah, what's it
know,
do
and
downstream?
Yeah.
geographically, that happens like, let's say 3-4 times a year, maybe. And that's exaggerated, but, you know, it doesn't seem to change the geographic structure of the place itself at the end of the day.
so if I read.
So everything is still, it goes back to how it was, in other words. But
Looking
I
at
don't-
what she has here, it's not an agricultural exemption, so we can't just grant it. If it was an agricultural exemption, we were kind of out of it.
The water itself has to be used for agriculture, not the land.
So if she wants to continue this, we can't give her a casual thumbs up or thumbs down. She has to file an RDA is what this is saying.
That's right.
Right? So that is our answer is if you want to pursue this, you have to file an RDA.
And she doesn't want to do that by her own accord. She just says, I just want to be able to go down there and do what I gotta do, you know.
Pass the RDA, NOI, because it's, you're,
Then
you're,
they
you're,
know
you're in the resource at that point.
what. Okay, then she
Right?
would need to file an NOI.
What do you guys think in that too?
No, she's right in the resource area,
Yeah,
You're right? It's
yeah.
not determining if it's applicable, it is applicable. Okay,
I
so,
mean, she ever brought it up with the Agriculture Commission itself and kind of talked to them about it and have a cohesive proposition, presentation, something about this?
I don't know if they have, wasn't the first night, wasn't Bert here,
Yeah, I think so.
Bert Hanson?
One of the times.
I don't know if she approached, the ag commission for this, but she did have a pond that she got permission to
She did that
dig
and
from ag commission. This was 6 years, cause I did a pond at our farm, where we got permission from AgCom to dig out, and she got permission for hers. She did the pond, but that's not anywhere near the brook.
Right.
It's way in a different.
Right.
And I
area.
saw the letter from MDR saying, Dennis sent it to me, and he's like, Sue would need something like this,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah,
for it to be an ag.
and that was an ag thing that
Right.
she went through, but yeah.
Okay,
She did write a statement, I'm not sure if you want to read it in.
John says the APR report, their inspector Caitlin referred to the brook as a ditch in one section of the report. If I am unable to attend the next Concom meeting and the issue is discussed, please present my comments. The brook is not Great Brook. It is about 2 to 3 feet across. You can jump over it during normal summer weather, not this year. Is basically a dry except for the deeper areas. Straightening the brook would restore it to its original condition. I don't know about that. It used to be straight. It would minimize land erosion, help water flow, reduce safety hazard, allow for easier maintenance along the edges of the brook. It would be an improvement. So, I think we differ. So I think the response from the committee should be that if she wants to proceed, she should file for an NOI.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on from that one. Open Space Committee. So we had talked about the Open Space Committee. I checked with a woman from the state about whether or not we can actually have a standing Open Space Committee. Or is it only allowed during times of like putting together an open space plan? She said no. Many towns in Massachusetts have an open space committee that's continuous. Sabrina verified that. She had looked it up. She actually looked it up before I got my answer. So we can move forward with the open space committee. It's a little late right now, but at some point we're gonna probably have a meeting and it might be just a special meeting just to work on that. All right, putting that together, size, bylaws, mandates, what have you. I think these meetings, one of the reasons we're looking for an open space committee.
So it won't be on a Monday, it'll be a different
Yeah,
day.
these meetings are just too busy for that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
so, we'll probably do a special meeting for that.
All right.
That'll come down the pike. Norm, you said you had something?
Yes, I just wanna make a comment that tonight we approved an NOI on its first time in front of us. And that's because we did the site visit before the public hearing. And if we did that more frequently, we would satisfy the public in a more timely manner. And we would also keep stuff off our agenda by approving it in a shorter time period.
I agree. I agree.
I like that too. Do I think, didn't they request the
They did,
they,
submitted it pretty early on as well, so we had time to have that site visit too.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't get that time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so,
So the
They're
last
very
thing on the agenda before we go into, we're gonna do a short executive session after this, but update on North Pond, I'm just gonna read something. If you recall, a gentleman, John Bach, volunteered to be a steward for the North Pond property. He continues to send into Sabrina his reports, which is fantastic. This one, he went on a hike on 7/14/2023. And basically he walked all the trails. He said litter, vandalism, very little litter, no vandalism. Stopped by, what a great job you guys did with the parking area, beautiful wooden fences, low spots graded, 2 trash barrels, not sure what the chained one is for. For the first time, there's no trash in the parking area. It looked great. The only other pieces of trash at the Overlook Party Central. Several items on the trail from Overlook to the old beach. None at the vernal pool. Just one small bag of trash, not bad for summertime. So Jerry's been going in, picking up trash. He's gotten more than one bag of trash.
Not Jared.
No, Jerry.
I'd love to take credit,
Yeah.
but
Norm
it was
has been
Norm.
going in and picking up trash.
It was
I know others have as well. Buildings and Grounds is going in on Mondays, so they're picking up, emptying the barrels. So it has been a lot better than it was last year, right?
Yeah.
So,
Good.
you know, we're moving in the right direction. So I'm gonna make a motion that we go into executive session.
you gotta make a motion to exit the
Yeah, we
regular
have to
meeting,
close this meeting,
to close this meeting.
because we're not coming back.
So I'm gonna make a motion to close the meeting.
The executive.
No, just sit there.
We have somebody in the back.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Stan, 149 King of the Road. You had a
Ronald.
request for a plan alternation and King of the Road, I believe that's Craig's Tea House.
Yes, do you have a comment?
I was just wanted to comment on, well, Diane commented about not going well. What does that entail with plan alteration? We still use a whole new set of plans for you?
So, no, what it means is similar to the last hearing that we had. They had presented plans to us and the plans have since altered. What they built is not what they got approved for. So they're looking to get approval on what has changed from the original plan.
Okay, this is, you know, by myself, I have the building, we have, this place is we built with neighbors, I just told that to come tonight to see what's going on.
Yeah,
The original first meeting we had at the location. You know, the brook there had brush on both sides of it, right before Craig's got involved with the house, okay? It's been all done, it's clear the bell now, right to the water. That was one issue before we got involved. They wanted to put up 3 buildings at the time, 12 by 18, which you approved. But when the buildings were built, they were twice as big as you approved them to start with, okay? I think you also mentioned like a spiral pylon or something like that. I guess they're cemented in now, they're cemented. So, and,
that part they came back for.
they came back.
Yeah, so when they changed from the helical coils to the sonotubes, they did come back and get permission for those because the helical coils at the time were unavailable due to supply chain issues. So we did approve that change.
We still got it.
I,
So anyway, they did the new plans up, so I guess the issue with the neighbors was the fact that the first approval was for small gazebos, okay? And they were built like twice as big, and they became buildings, not gazebos.
we understand that.
Yes, they also became where they're supposed to be just places to dead of the sun, they became electrified and heat wise and glassed in. Also, they're not handicap acceptable. So I mean, all these little projects have been approved and then everything's been changed along the way. Now we're looking to go back and, you know, approve what's been done outside the guidelines, I say.
But they haven't been approved.
That's just,
Yeah.
my point tonight, I think what's going to
Yeah.
happen next.
They haven't been approved. They haven't come back before us with any mitigation plans or anything, so.
There were some changes, the planning board had, a lot of things done that, there's a lot of neighbors were concerned
Yeah.
about, so. A lot of things been done that concerns the neighbors, I guess, at this point.
It concerns us too. They just haven't come back to us
Really
yet.
stop,
Yeah,
All right,
Just to clarify, you're Ron Senna at 149 Feeding Hills?
that's correct.
Okay,
all right, Ryan,
That's, better.
got it.
excellent. All right, thank you.
We got, the next meeting, or whatever meeting down the road will come, it'll be part of the agenda.
It'll be on the agenda, yeah,
And the neighbors.
absolutely. More the merrier. Right, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna make a motion to end the regular meeting.
Mhm.
I'll second that motion.
All,
He so moved it. He's got it.
Norm so moved. We're gonna do a voice vote. All in favor, ending the regular meeting?
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna vote to go into executive session.
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. So we're gonna end this meeting right now. So
Sure.
who seconded that vote?
Norm,
Who made the,
me.
you motioned, he's, okay. So we're ending this meeting.
Okay.